Time with Dirt and Sprague.
Snap back, four-man rush. Daniels fires over the middle. Caught! Crowder! Jamison Crowder! Down the middle, back in the end zone. And Washington takes the lead. More Jaden Daniels magic.
This is Wild Card Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Wild Card Week with Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and 1080.
There's a lot more under the hood for us.
The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody.
What is happening?
Oh, a storm is brewing on January the 6th.
Oh, what storm we got cooking up today?
I don't know. It might start with a capital letter.
Oh.
Just don't.
I didn't even connect the dots that today was January 6th, to be honest with you.
I did.
Oh, you did?
We were live on the air when that happened.
We were still middays, I think, when that happened, right? We were still 12 to 3.
Swag doesn't want us to bring this up.
No, the anniversary.
Yeah.
4-year anniversary. Don't touch it. Don't do it. Don't talk about it.
Some circles known as Ashley Babbitt Day.
That it is. Good memories. That was one of the weirder
Great
radio
memories.
shows we have ever done.
It's just a tour.
We're just checking the place out.
Friendly people.
Being on the air and trying to have a serious conversation or just talk about some stupid, silly topic while looking up at the TV being like, what the hell is happening right now is one of the weirdest radio shows I've ever done.
It was bizarre because we were in the middle of a sports rant of some sort. Not actual ranting.
I mean, there's something going on. I can't remember what it was because it's all been blocked out, but there was something that was going on that we were
NFL
discussing.
coach was probably getting fired.
Something like that.
And we just look up at our television and it says breaking news.
What?
And I'm just watching people light things and break windows. And I'm like, wow.
All right, that's good.
It's crazy.
It was fresh off the heels of all the COVID shows that we had to do, too. All those. I was thinking about that the other day. Remember when we got excited with the return of Korean baseball? Remember when that was a moment in time?
Yes.
When Korean baseball came back and
The
we gambled
KBO.
on it, and it was on TV at 10 o'clock at night, and there were Carl Ravitch was broadcasting it from his house on Zoom. How weird that was. That was our time for a while.
I'll never forget the mental image. I'll just be with me forever of just people on the Capitol, Trump flags, fire lit somewhere, window broke, and I'm like, wow. What a day.
What a day.
What a day for America.
What a day. USA.
We're back,
USA.
baby. We're back.
We're back and better than
4
ever.
years later, we're back.
4 years later. Here we are.
Oh, man. It's nice to be. The COVID shows were interesting in the sense of I remember when sports returned, and I know crowds couldn't be there. And weirdly, I thought that would bring everybody back as sports fans, and it didn't.
No, it never really did.
Sports fans were like, no. And I'm like, why? We actually have sports again in our
They're
lives.
back. You could actually go to games again.
I didn't care that the fans were digitally put in.
We had that for an entire season in baseball until the postseason.
Remember, you could buy your own cutout, your cardboard cutout, and stick it in the
I thought
third
that was
row
kinda
as
cool, to
city
be honest
field.
with you.
I mean, that was a smart, creative way to do things. I had to call. I remember calling 2 Winterhawks games on TV because they ended up playing a hyphenated season that year. There was 20 games, and they wanted games to be on TV. And doing play-by-play in an arena in which there were no fans was one of the most eerie things I've ever
Mike
done.
Parker and I were talking about that when the Pilots went down there to Corvallis, because the
week.
last time they went out was maybe Terry Porter's best victory with upsetting the Elite Eight.
That's right.
And
We
there-
fired Tinkle, and then he went to the Elite Eight
And
after
then
that game.
there was nobody there. It was there was 50 people. It was like friends and
Oh, so
family.
it didn't count.
That was it. It didn't
Is that what you're
count.
telling me? It didn't
It's COVID.
count?
Nothing counted in COVID.
You don't want me to bring up the Capitol storming. Don't you dare bring the
How
pilot
dare
beating
you.
the Beavers.
Well,
How dare
that
you.
defeat is
How
what
dare you.
spurred the Beavs on to the Elite Eight run
I'll
after
scissor
that.
kick his gizzard.
Was that year?
Yeah.
That was the year we went to the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
And
'cause
we
I-
lost to the Portland effing Pilots at home.
In overtime.
We spent a week
Unbelievable.
firing Wayne Tinkle after that game. We
I
legitimately,
mean-
that was it. That was the final. He'd only been there with Gary Payton. Only the team wasn't even his.
Yeah.
That was the only good year he'd ever had. We all fired him after that, and then he went to the Elite Eight.
That probably aligns with when he started hating me.
Probably.
I unfortunately ruined
Probably,
that
you
relationship.
did.
Very nice guy. I always dealt great
Yeah.
guy.
We used to
but-
be homies with Wayne Tinkle back in the day.
Dude, he came to one of our Coors Light, in a freezer
He did.
Veteran Day shows.
We went out and got lunch afterwards.
It was delightful. It was delightful.
Way
And
to
then
go.
you give a take because this business tells you got to give a take, and the
Way to
take
go.
gets back to the people.
Way
Yeah.
to go, Sprague. Way to go.
But they block out the noise.
Yeah, we don't read the headlines.
You don't pay any attention to anything that's being said. You also did that this year with your football program when you did the show with the brown paper bag over your head. You endeared a lot of people in Corvallis to that moment.
You know what? I'm the most
Was
honest
that the
person on
Nevada
this show.
loss? Which loss was that?
That was Choated.
Choate, was it the
Yeah.
Choate loss?
Choated, yeah.
Choate loss?
That was when we got
Are
Choated.
you sure it wasn't Air Force, the 27-0 at Air Force? Could have been that one, too.
Ooh, yeah.
I think it might have been Air
Yeah,
Force.
I think that was it.
Because I think the Choate was the beginning of the downfall,
Yeah,
but that
'cause
was
it
like,
20,
whoa.
28-0.
I think they got
or
shut out by
7
Air
or whatever
Force.
the final
27
was.
nothing, I think.
Yeah, probably was Air Force.
I think it was the Air Force game.
And then they came back and beat the Cougs.
I mean,
That's
look,
damn right they did. Damn right they did.
This is easy for me to say, only being a 7th, 8th grade girls basketball coach, but I feel like if I was a coach of note, like a college or pro,
Yes.
I think I'd be reasonable and just say, like, those people are admittedly kind of clownish. They make fun of themselves. They give takes. And if you have a bad loss, maybe you're deserving of the take.
Yeah, don't be mad at us. You're
Yeah.
mad that you lost the game. Don't be mad at us for making fun of you for losing the game.
Adam Sandler said it years ago. You're not mad at me. You're mad at your dad.
That's right.
And I think that's a lot of truth. So they get mad at us when in reality they're mad at themselves.
It's not my fault you lost 28-0 to Air Force and couldn't get a first down. I'm not on the team. I didn't come up with a game plan. Why are you taking your anger out on me?
Brother man, I don't make $2.5 million a year.
No.
I don't make close to that. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at yourself.
That game, they were outgained 409 to 175, and it was 28-0 was the final score. They were 2 of 10 on third down.
How did this turn into like a revisiting of Oregon State bad losses?
I don't know. What other games do you want to go through?
Ohio State, Oregon.
Hey,
that happened.
hey! I don't know what you're talking
Too
about.
soon?
I don't know what you're talking about. Didn't happen.
How
It's
did
golf
it go
season.
Thursday and
It's
Friday?
golf season
Dirt?
now, bitch. We've moved on, okay? It was basketball season, and then we lost by 25 to Illinois, and then we moved on from basketball
No, they
season.
had a nice rally and beat
Yeah, you beat
Maryland
Maryland.
yesterday.
Awesome. That's great. Cool.
know?
They go
yeah,
back.
I totally knew that. Watched every second of
Maryland kind of
it. Was
came
glued
back.
to it. Yeah.
And then
Maryland was up 13 in the
Yeah.
first half.
What was their head coach? The old Gary
Gary Williams.
Gary Williams,
Williams?
Yeah.
dude. Gary,
Oh, I
when
thought
Gary
you meant
Williams
Lefty Drizel.
when
but
Gary Williams comes to town, you got to be on your P's and Q's.
I think this is like their 4th or 5th coach since Gary Williams.
Juan Dixon did not stand a chance this weekend.
Fighting
C.J.
Steve
Wilcox is not grabbing rebounds in that paint. It ain't happening in
road
the paint.
trips to Ohio State and Penn
Lonnie
State
Baxter.
this week.
Well, when we take down Ohio State, we're all even again. It's all fair.
I want to be honest with you guys. That's the second time on this show in probably less than 2 months that we've just randomly named Maryland basketball.
Maryland basketball is one of the more enjoyable programs to name random players.
Well, because they had a real
They
run
had a
there for long
great
time.
run for a long time. And it's like it is centered in my mind of peak sports fandom.
It's one of my favorite national champions
Yes.
of my life.
When that team won, I was young and like starting to follow and learn. And
Yeah.
you're like, they got cool jerseys.
Yep.
Maryland is
a
awesome.
turtle? Who doesn't love a turtle?
And then we
Yeah,
ended up getting
Terps.
Steve Blake, who was like fighting people on the Blazers for a
Yes.
decade. You're like, all right, Maryland's kind of cool. They're a fighting turtle.
When did they really just completely crumble out of my? I know they've been ranked this year, but like when did they really
Probably
crater?
when they went to the Big Ten.
Was that it? Was that the downfall of Maryland?
I think so. I think some
Should
of
have
the
stayed in the ACC.
I mean, they should have, yeah.
Be
It's
way
crazy
better.
what's happened to the ACC in hoops. All the legendary coaches that have retired, the
Yeah.
programs that have left, like, what? They got nothing anymore.
That would be a fun non-NFL football season game. Can you name the ACC basketball coaches?
No chance.
I don't know if I can.
Not a
outside
chance.
of Duke and
after
Carolina.
Hubert Davis and John Shire,
Yeah,
I think
that's it.
everybody's coming up empty.
That's
yeah,
all
because
I got.
Miami's guy just quit.
Yeah, Larinaga.
Larinaga just quit.
He said, I can't deal with this NIL
They're
stuff.
terrible. He can't handle it. He just quit.
Did Damon Stoudemire take a job in the ACC? Is
Georgia
he-
Tech.
Yes.
Georgia Tech, okay.
Yeah,
I
the
thought I
Yellow
remembered that.
Yep.
I got that one. That's all I got.
I think that's it for me too.
That's all I got. By the way, I was looking at Maryland basketball season. So Gary Williams fired or retired, I can't remember, in 2011.
I think that they had already started to be bad.
They
then.
had not since his championship year in 2002. They went to the Sweet 16 the next year,
Okay.
and then for his next 8 seasons, they didn't get out of the second round of the tournament.
I mean, at least they were going to the tournament.
They had a few years there at the NIT, but the years that they made it didn't make past the second round. They have not been past a Sweet 16 since that national championship year.
Man,
That's it.
maybe they're back.
That's all they got. Maybe this is the year. Kevin Willard, 16 and 17 last year. Look out.
Well, they lost to the Puppies, and then they came down to Eugene, and they came back, and they started strong, then they came back. I thought they might beat your Ducks, and then the Ducks won.
I mean, they had no chance. Come on now.
Yeah.
Watched every second of that game. I totally knew it was on yesterday.
Is there anything worse, by the way, than waking up and...
Well, you had to go find. I think this is basketball's going to find because it was on Peacock yesterday.
Oh, the Oregon Maryland game
You had
was?
to go hunt for it.
Nikki Glazer hosted the Golden Globes.
Yes, how'd that go?
She had a great opening monologue.
Seemed like it was a well-received, make fun of everybody kind of thing.
She's an underrated celebrity because she's a smoke show who is hilarious. And she went up there and, like, last year they had Joe Coy do it. Remember, he famously bombed. She did it this year, and she crushed it. She made a joke to one of the actors, and basically it was to the sum it up, it was like, nobody watches Peacock.
Nobody's going here.
And nobody saw it. It was on Peacock.
And nobody witnessed this TV show.
So I would disagree with you. I don't think people are watching Peacock college basketball
Well,
games.
that's what I mean. You
I'd
had
be
to
willing-
hunt for it.
Yeah.
If
What's the over-under on that game for viewers? 10,000?
Yeesh.
Is that too high?
That seems high.
On an NFL Sunday?
Sunday Night Football with the 1 seed.
Yeah,
the
what time
Golden
was the
Globes.
game yesterday? What time did they
1
play?
o'clock.
Oh, that's right in the middle of the NFL football Sunday.
Yeah, but let's not act like yesterday's Week 18 slate was amazing.
Let's not act like it was great, but there was probably 35 million people watching every game because that's the way we operate, brother.
No, it got on the second screen.
Did it for you?
Yeah.
Over golf? Wasn't that
Are
finishing
you
at the same
sh-
time
are
as
you
Kapalua?
shocked? Are you shocked?
No,
we had
then
golf back
then
in
I
our
went to
lives.
the end of the golf after
Okay,
that
after the basketball game?
because they're in Hawaii, so golf finished at like 5 p.m.
That's
right
true.
before kickoff.
Don't they start their
Touche.
season like the first 3 or 4 weeks are in Hawaii?
The first 2
It's
are.
island
2
hop.
weeks, yeah. You just
So yeah,
hop
it's the
around.
Century for the winners in the top the top 50, and then the first full field tournament is this week in Wailea on
It's
on
going to
Oahu.
be really funny. This is going to happen. There's going to be a golfer that's bordering on retirement, and the first 3 weeks they start in Hawaii, he's just never going to leave.
Just I'm staying here. That's it. It's like the reverse Lane Kiffin. Like I'm retiring and I'm just not getting back on the
Yeah.
airplane. On the tarmac, you're walking. You're like, wait, where are we going next? Florida? How long is that flight? Nah, I'm just gonna hang on the island.
That's what I would do.
I'm okay. I've done enough in my career.
You know what? I don't want to grind this year.
No, I don't
think
want to.
I'm calling it. I finished 35th in this tournament. It's the third one I've played in a row. I'm just going to build a house
the
here.
Century's a signature event or whatever they're calling them now. So
Yeah.
you finish top 10, you're making a nice paycheck. You go over to Honolulu, see if you can cash at Wailea.
Shane Lowry has one of my favorite quotes about that tournament because he could play in it, not every year, but he wins a tournament most years. It's you have to win a tournament the year before to go play in the first tournament that happened this weekend in Hawaii. And he had a quote. Somebody asked him a while ago, like, why don't you ever go out to Hawaii and open the season, Tournament of Champions? It's like, it's beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to go do that? And he basically was like, brother, I'm coming off the holidays. I'm in Ireland. It's a 37-hour flight to get there. And what was the winning score this weekend?
35 under par.
So you want me to fly off of the holidays 30 hours to get to Hawaii and then have to go shoot 30 under par to win? That ain't happening. I'm not going.
I know that it's far away. 37 hours to travel?
I think that, I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was somewhere around the 30-hour range to get there.
Ireland's probably...
There's no direct flights, obviously, so you're going
Even
stop
if you
to
go
stop
PJ,
to stop.
you got to get fuel.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
stopping somewhere.
That's just
He's
crazy.
like, no, I'm not going
Yeah,
all the
you
way.
got to stop on the east coast of the States.
I'll
and
play
then
on the DP World Tour somewhere in Europe. I'll join you guys when you get to Florida.
He'll
That's
go, to
only
Abu,
like a
he'll go to Abu Dhabi
yeah.
and Dubai.
I'll get a 16-hour flight to Florida. That makes a little bit more sense to get there.
Underrated. Kind of sucks for the Irish. Can't really go to Hawaii.
No, Rory and Shane Lowry never play in that tournament.
Man.
Never do it.
But
'cause
just
it's
to
too
not
far.
visit Hawaii, that sucks.
I know. It's kind of a bummer. It's a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful
That's
place.
the only reason I love watching it, because this is the time of year when my seasonal depression starts to hit of like, oh, that's right. It's going to rain every day for 4 more months.
I'm kind of stuck in this. We kind of want to do a Japan trip this year, but like to do that trip costs something. It's a lot of planning,
Right.
Versus
And you're going to want to go for a longer period
do
of
I
time.
do I just go to Hawaii for 6 days and that's my trip this
Yeah,
year?
Get
Because
some
like
sunshine in your life.
it's almost impossible for that trip to fail.
Dude, a Hawaii trip in the next 4 months
Oh,
is
my God.
one of the best vacations that you could take.
Oh, trust me, I got the we got the SoCal double coming up for the pilots at the end of the month.
Yeah, you
and
can't
that's,
wait.
See, and that's good. That's
little bit
nice
of
for you,
warmth.
but you have to kind of work. I'm talking about like unplugging and having to worry about nothing when you're somewhere
Lay on a
nice.
beach
Yeah.
for a week
Yeah.
and then come home.
Yep.
and be depressed at your home.
Well,
that's the trade-off.
there's a little to that, yeah.
Landing in that rainy Portland tarmac on a return flight from Hawaii. Oh, that's the depths.
Landing
of
was
hell.
courtside at the basketball game yesterday.
You're damn right he was.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Just turn a landing into a landing?
He did, yeah. landing.
Everything's anti-beaver and everything's pro-duck. What's going on
What
right
happened to
now?
your stupid program? You guys are actually in my notes today. You guys had a nice little weekend.
Who's playing Texas this Thursday?
I don't know.
I had to end the segment some way.
You
We
gotta
lost
go
to
there.
the Pilots.
You got to go there?
We got
Really?
showed it.
You got to go there? You want to lose 28-0 Air Force again? Pick up a
Wow.
first down, bitch.
I mean, people were saying that in the Ohio State game.
Touche.
Happy Monday.
Hey, we got to 15, okay? We scored 15 points. I scored them 21-7 after a 34-0 start.
That's why I call the authorities. I think Dirt's going to storm this side of the desk at some point. It's what's
I'm
gonna
storming
happen.
your capital today.
It's going to be a dirt flag waving.
You're damn right there is.
We got a loaded show, a lot to get into. I want to start with something you wouldn't expect. And then we're going to just go full in on the NFL. The NFL finished up its regular season, much like college football. Kind of sad that the season's already over.
Couple more weeks, man. It's almost gone.
It's almost gone. It's out of our lives. Dirt and Sprague, loaded show. Let's get it going on the Fan.
Bottom of the Gold, LLC.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
Happy Monday to everybody out there. Good to be with you. We've got NFL playoff seedings locked up. One surprise team in the NFL playoffs this year. We'll get to that at 6:45.
What a weekend of football we got coming up. Semifinal Thursday, semifinal Friday, 2 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, 1 game Monday.
Very unfair for the Monday team.
Very unfair.
We'll get to some of the coach news, organizational decisions coming up here. I want to be out in the front on this, and I'm well aware, I think, what's about to happen. How'd you enjoy the NBA this weekend?
I was locked into it, man. I was locked into every second of it. You sent out a text to the group chat that I didn't see quite quickly enough, but then eventually stumbled my way over to an NBA game on Friday night.
You actually did.
I did.
I thought
caught
you
the
not
last,
responding was your biggest, nope, don't care, sorry.
I mean, I didn't really care, to be honest with you, but then you basically said you're a communist if you're not watching the Spurs Nuggets game, and I was like, well, I don't want to be a communist, so I want to go find a way to watch the end of this game, and then the only thought that I had, and this is just because of the way my brain works, and he did it to me twice this weekend, I'm still waiting for my public apology from the Blazer fans that celebrated meaningless middle-of-the-season wins the year we had a chance to draft Victor Wembanyama.
You're still waiting for an apology?
I'm still waiting for an apology from 3 years ago, right before the All-Star break. They went on a 4-game winning streak. I called everybody idiots. They all called me Mr. Scrooge, and I said, I'm right, you're wrong, just wait. And now this guy's torching the NBA, leading his team likely to the playoffs. He had 35 and 18 on Friday night.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about
draining threes from the logo, dude. He's 7'5", shooting logo threes.
I saw him in person. He's every bit worth the price of admission. He is unbelievable. It's one of the craziest athletes I've ever seen with my eyes. Both those games, they had back-to-back against the Nuggets, league pass.
Both of them.
Way to go, NBA.
Way to highlight our product.
Way to go.
Way to showcase what we got, baby.
Thunder Knicks was NBA TV, and then Celtics Thunder was yesterday afternoon, right in the height of the NFL.
Yeah, where was that one on? Was that one on NBA TV too?
NBA TV, every other game, league pass.
Yeah, what are we doing?
I mean, I told Swag this before we started the show. It's just like, this is what the league's problem is. Thunder Nuggets, or Spurs Nuggets, excuse me.
Yeah, twice this
Wemby
weekend.
Jokic, both going off. Great games.
Both of them great games.
We had head padding with Westbrook and Wemby. League pass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that kills you. And I put up a poll question late last night, knowing how people would vote, that nobody watches the NBA. And I'm just like, I totally get it. But, these games are, I argue with Schulte on Friday. I will go to, these games are awesome.
Yeah.
But we're just over it. We don't care.
Is this going to get fixed with when Amazon comes in? Are they going to have a red zone type hop around?
I think Amazon is prime in position to buy League Pass, and they need to fix this. And I don't know how many people will tune in then if it's on Prime in some capacity. But the League Pass experience with the NBA is the worst in all sports. I've never had the ice hockey package. I promise you, it's better than the NBA.
It's ESPN Plus now.
Okay.
So you can get all the NHL other than your local team still blacked out. But other than that,
you can watch every game on ESPN Plus.
You can watch every game unless it's a national. If it's a TNT or an ES, well, if it's ESPN, you can get it. But
if it's a Swag's point, if it's a local team, if it's your team
local
in your market,
team's blacked out like baseball is. But other than that, you can see everything.
And to your point on the Wemby Blazer thing, some may make that same argument. We're doing it again this year with Cooper Flagg in the draft because we have to beat Damian Lillard in the Milwaukee Bucks.
We're still playing our vets. We're still winning meaningless games. They're not winning too much. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are they, 6th,
We're doing
7th
the same
worst?
thing we do every year, and we're not
7th,
giving
I
ourselves
think,
our best odds, and I understand that there's not a guarantee to be in the bottom
It's
three.
a lottery, Dirt.
It's the same thing we do every single year. And then we're going to look up come draft time, or we're going to have the 8th overall pick and be like, why didn't we draft a generational star? It's like, well, because he won the game in the middle of January on the road at Milwaukee where you had no business winning. That's why. And then we'll eventually sit guys, we'll eventually trade guys, and we'll fully embrace the tank for the final 2 months of the season like we have done the last 3 years, and it will be too late. We're the same exact team we've been for 3 years. Too many vets not fully embracing the tank, and it's going to cost us again. So wonderful existence we live in this city.
So you didn't want to beat Damian Lillard, huh?
No, that literally
You don't want to
doesn't
send a message.
Send a message about what? We suck and you're slightly better.
He was bad in crunch time.
He was horrible. He turned it
passed
over
out,
in the
yeah.
last play of the game.
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing? Take the shot, Dame.
I was shocked.
He's a shot fighter. What happened?
You know why he passed it, right?
What happened to our champion?
We have too many good defenders.
Oh, I see what you did there. Of all the days to cut through to for the NFL, because you're never going to do it as the NBA.
That's terrible.
That was really bad.
So bad.
Really bad. It's a Monday. Yesterday's NFL slate was one of the least interesting as a fan that I can remember. And it's like that was the only thing for me as if I were an NBA diehard of like trying to, plant the flag. We're doing the anniversary thing.
Sure.
Plant the flag of the NBA yesterday. That was your day to try and cut through a little bit.
See,
Most people are still watching football no matter what,
No,
but
I
there were
know.
so
I'm
many
over it.
games just outside of Sunday Night Football that had all that build in. Like the 10 a.m. slate started for me, and I'm just I was watching my TV like,
it was
it
awful.
was bad.
I don't care.
But then all the craziness happened as all those games were wrapping up. And the
Commanders
seeding-
Bears happened at the same time.
Yeah, that happened at the same time.
Yeah, but
and
even
then
that was just
Tampa-
seeding related. I know the Tampa
Tampa
and
and
Atlanta
Atlanta.
thing. I know it matters, but it wasn't like you're going to miss the play. Like Tampa and
But
Atlanta was the only one.
But the games themselves finishing were chaotic.
Yeah.
And this is where the NFL is,
It's
they got
the
it
king.
figured out. It's
But
the king.
here's the problem: is Celtics Thunder. The result, the final score may not look it. That game was effing awesome, and it tipped off at 12:40. I had it on my main screen. I didn't share the screen.
Mhm.
It was Celtics Thunder because that might be the finals.
It could be.
And I put the red zone not on an iPad because God forbid my 8-year-old ever charge my iPad and leave it in an accessible spot for her father.
Who paid for it?
She up.
No, because she doesn't have school today.
What? No
What?
school today?
Elementary school kids aren't going to school in my
I
district.
thought everybody was
Why?
back
I
today.
thought today was the return day.
My oldest is, and she's pissed off, but my youngest gets to go to Omthi today with her friends.
We already make Jan 6 a holiday? It's already a holiday for people? They don't have to go back to school?
Easy.
What
all
happened
right?
there, man?
Easy. We got to certify things.
Remembrance Day.
I'm certifiably going crazy because this little bastard won't charge my iPad.
You got to watch on your phone.
I put the red zone on my cell phone. I'm washing dishes. My family's out. I have the red zone on my cell phone on the counter in front of me with the NBA on the. That game was awesome. And I'm living in a world. I tell my wife this last night. She doesn't get it. I'm living in a world where nobody cares about that league.
No.
And I feel so alone.
You're all
I feel
alone.
so isolated. And I'm like, this is a Thunder. This
Yeah.
Thunder Celtic game could be a finals preview. And Dirt's watching right now. Dolphins, Jets.
Watching Mariota lead a comeback, baby.
Yeah.
3 duck quarterbacks getting big dubs
And
yesterday.
I totally get it. I know I'm alone. It was great. We had great basketball. If you give me Knicks Thunder, I'm going to be so damn happy. These are great games, and I know the Blazers winning might have pissed off people, but Celtics Thunder happened, but we all had to watch Mike Evans get $3 million. Woo!
And you got to catch it.
That was kind of a cool moment.
That was a really cool moment.
was
11
awesome.
straight years of 1,000 yards.
Why'd he weirdly walk off? He talked to nobody. He just like got
Ran
high
off
fives
the
and
field.
left.
Well, that was the last play of the game.
No, I get it, but he dapped nobody. He just walked away.
Yeah,
Very
good
weird.
for the Saints not take. That's one of those weird things in modern sports where you feel like a team might get butthurt. Why'd you throw the ball with 30 seconds to
No.
go? Like they totally understood.
Players
it. Everybody got
understood
it.
what was going
Like,
on.
get him at 6 yards and go down, and then the game's over. And then we'll
when
take our
you're
lead.
on a list and the only other person on the list is Jerry Rice.
Pretty remarkable.
That's pretty
cool.
awesome, man.
Pretty remarkable.
He's had like 7 different quarterbacks. Jerry Rice
Yeah.
at least had Montana and Young.
I mean,
Jerry
how
Rice
many
was
of
going
them?
to Super Bowls.
Yeah, and Evans
Well, Mike
did with
Evans
Brady.
got one.
Mike
yeah.
Evans got one.
He did with Brady, but outside of the two, what was Brady there 2 years
2
in
years.
Tampa?
Was
I
it
think
2
it was-
or 3?
He won the Super Bowl his first year there.
Yeah.
And then they got back to the playoffs. I thought that was it.
I thought it was 3. I thought it was 2, and then
Let me
he
see.
retired unretired.
I'll pull it up. Hold on.
His
Searching,
last year, they
Googling.
shouldn't have been a playoff team, but the division.
It was the same thing as this year where you're like,
Yeah.
wait, they get to host a playoff game? It was 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was 3
It
years.
was going to be 2, and then Schefter ruined it, and Brady's like, oh, really? F you, I'm coming back.
Yeah, he fell off at 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, which is kind of funny to think falling
That's
off
his
a cliff.
fall
That's his last year in the NFL was 25 and 9. But the larger point on Evans is that it's remarkable that he did that in which outside of 3 years, then I know Baker's come on the last year plus for them. Outside of that, like who the hell? Jameis Winston
Go
throwing
look it up.
47
Yeah.
picks. The guy played with absolutely nothing, and he's gotten 1,000 yards every year of his career.
He's an NFL Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
As I've now corkscrewed NFL talking to you, why isn't anybody watching the NBA?
I know where it's going. I know what the show is.
Yeah.
I'm well aware.
That's okay. I shared with you my radical NBA expansion idea.
Swag wants to go to 36
36 teams.
More teams?
I'm like,
We
I don't know
need
if there's
more
enough talent for
teams?
36.
I think so. I think
Okay.
there's enough
Do you know how
international
bad
talent
some of those
out
teams
there.
would be?
There's some really bad NBA teams
We'd have
right
like
now.
5 Wizards.
We've been one of them for like 5 years now.
Yeah, well.
I think
We've
but
won like
then-
30 games
It's
in
gonna
a
keep
half of a
going.
decade.
Well, you know,
man.
Adam Silver likes the soccer.
Yeah.
So just do it like soccer, home and home. You play everybody once at home, once on the road. You can actually have a mid-season tournament because that would be 70 regular season games. Have a mid-season tournament there to get to potentially 82.
We're fixing the
He's
NBA
cooking.
again. This is what the segment
He's
is.
over here cooking. Let the man cook.
He's
got the answers.
The final thing I'll say, and then the NBA won't exist the rest of the show, so I can already hear people turning the radio or Sprague, shut up, nobody cares. The final thing I would say is the accessibility of games is a joke,
Yes.
and you can't play like 8 to 9 games a day and have only one of them outside of the local market maybe be on a channel that almost nobody has.
Bit of a problem for the league.
It's a bit of a problem to say, hey, Wemby and Jokic is playing. Where? League Pass.
You can't watch it.
$79.99. Oh,
You got to pay for it. Behind a paywall.
Cool for them.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
And then you get to the playoffs and nobody knows the teams, and they go, hey, how good is this team? Like, well, you'll find out.
I had that a little bit watching the Blazer-Buck game on Saturday because I did watch it. They're finally on YouTube TV, which, maybe that's in your notes today. But I did have watching that game.
Well, there's the note. This is the NBA segment. I doubt you're going to get to NBA on your show sheet.
But it was like, hey, first off, nice to be able to watch him because what else was going on? Oh, the end of the, was it the Steeler game?
It was the
I think
Steeler-Bengal game, which was so god-awful.
Flipping back and forth between that.
And everybody watched that over the Bucks place.
Learning all the guy, like, hey, look at that. Gary Trent Jr.'s on the Bucks. I totally forgot that.
The
And then
former Blazers, Pat Connaughton's a Buck.
AJ Green, who the hell is he? Where did he come from? That guy's
one of the ugliest shots in the NBA.
just chucking up shots left and right. Like, he even went for a high five with Giannis after a layup, and Giannis left him hanging. And I thought, is this his place on the team? So you learn something new.
AJ Green of the Bucks shoots like a guy that chucks at your local YMCA plays.
Made 7 threes in that game, though.
I know,
He
but
lit him up. Like
I've
a
also
Christmas
watched
tree.
him go 1 for 8 in a game. Just a chucker.
Just keep chucking, baby.
All right, let's get out of the thing nobody cares about. Let's talk about the thing everybody cares about: dysfunction in the NFL. We got Bo Nix in the playoffs. The NFL playoff matchups are set. Let's get to all of it next on The Fan.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Good or bad weather, the golf course always the driest around. Download the Langdon Farms app today. Get all the latest news and specials. First on The Fan, Bo Nix had more touchdown passes, 4, than incompletions, 3, to lead the Broncos past a Chiefs squad resting many of its starters for a 37-0 win. They clinched the final wildcard spot in the AFC and will head to Buffalo to face the Bills this Sunday as 8.5-point underdogs. The other AFC wildcard games are Saturday, beginning with the Chargers, 3-point favorites on the road at the Texans, and another Ravens-Steelers showdown in Charm City. Baltimore, 9.5-point favorites. In the NFC, the Lions left no doubt who the top team is with a 31-9 rout of the Vikings. They clinched the number 1 seed. Minnesota, now the 5 seed, will visit the Rams next Monday night after LA dropped to the 4 seed. Vikes are 2.5-point favorites there. The Commanders on Sunday go to Tampa, will face the Buccaneers. Bucks 3.5-point favorites, and the Eagles on Sunday will host the Packers. Philly a 4.5-point favorite. The 9th-ranked Oregon Ducks basketball team with a second-half rally beating Maryland 83-79. Jackson Shellstad led the way with 23. Dana Altman's crew will hit the road to face Ohio State on Thursday. And after taking in the Lions-Vikings game on the sidelines, Chauncey Billups ready to lead his Blazers against his former Pistons team tonight in Motown. 4 o'clock tip on KUNP. That's channel 1016 on Comcast. Portland a 6.5-point underdog. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's Sports. Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
Somewhere there might be a Fox Sports executive with this song playing.
Picture of Joy Taylor.
I think legally we should talk about that.
Oh, are we going to get a lawsuit too? Are we going down too?
I mean, I don't know what else she has to do at this point. I think she has to come out swinging, right? I mean,
Are they going to be on TV? Today is going to be their biggest rating day of all time.
Emmanuel Acho, Joy Taylor.
Will they be on the air? What are the odds, yes or no? Are they going to speak for themselves?
Or lawyers going to speak? Lawyers speak.
There's just a disclaimer on the screen during the entire hour of when the show is normally on.
If you don't follow sports media gossip, this is just vague referencing. Just Google Joy Taylor.
Skip Bayless, Emmanuel Acho, FS1.
There was a hairdresser that filed a lawsuit. Whoa, what she's alleging.
Yeah, go ahead and Google that bad boy out. I think we can all come to one conclusion there. Can this finally cancel Skip Bayless? I know we bemoan cancel
he was
culture.
already unemployed.
I know, but he's still around. He's going to try and make a comeback. He's going to have some stupid show on X or some dumb podcast that we're going to have to, look at clips of him making fun of LeBron 30 years later. We're still can we just once and for all as a society, we should have done it when he called Troy Aikman gay in his book in the 1990s.
No, I think
that should have been the end of it. He should have also done it for 20 years when he tried to clown on one of the greatest players of all time in the NBA and built his entire career on it. This should be it.
I think he's done.
No notes.
Okay.
I think you nailed it. 20 years railing on a guy who's debatably the GOAT and somehow made a career out of that.
Built his entire career off a stupid, corny, I'm throwing my Cowboy fan jersey in my garbage can. And go read the allegations in this. But he offered $1.5 million for something. Yeah.
But he's he's a devoted husband.
That he is.
Our business is disgusting.
He's a man of God. Emmanuel Acho's got a lot of God videos up.
Look, nobody's perfect.
No.
If you didn't know the sports media industry was gross, go read the details. That's happening at a lot of places.
Things are going well. Maybe we can get a job at FS1 now. They might have to clean house.
Speak first. I want to ask you because I want to get to a local-ish story in the National Football League. We're going to dive into the playoff matchups. We got those solidified after the Lions-Viking result.
Yep.
I want to ask you what a couple teams are doing. It is Black Monday in the NFL. The Bengals just fired Lou Anarumo, who 2-3 years ago was looked at as one of the best defensive minds in the league.
Yes, he was.
Now he sucks. Goodbye. The Giants are keeping Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. And we have a big company meeting today after our show. I don't think I'll talk to Ryan Cooley, but I can only imagine the hours-long debate he would give me or explanation.
Of why this is the right call.
Or the wrong. I don't know where he's at on it.
I'd hope he'd give up by now, but I don't know.
But the ESPN morning show was talking about them being brought back by John Mara. And I don't know why. Swag kind of tried to explain this and didn't make any sense to me. They basically said this means they're not drafting a quarterback, and I'm like, what?
What are you going to do then? They got the 3rd overall pick in the draft.
And the ESPN show that I heard seems to just be thinking this is kicking the can down the road on taking a quarterback. And I'd like somebody to explain to me how that makes any sense.
That would be very endearing to the fan base. I'm sure that's how you sell a lot of season tickets and get a lot of support going into next year.
Well, I look at it from the other way. Now, I don't know about Cam Ward, but there's no way Deion sends his son there.
Why?
Because
it's New York.
The top 2 picks are Tennessee and Cleveland.
He had Giants cleats going into the bowl game.
I understand all that, but if you don't know who the coach is and they're not getting extended, they're in the final years. They're lame duck. They're Chauncey Billups next year. And you don't know who that is, there's no way Deion sends his son there. No.
All right, I want you to do me a big favor because you don't do this when I ask. I need you to pull your cut right there after this segment.
That needs to be pulled.
Because I need to bring this back after the NFL draft.
You need to set like a calendar reminder for whatever the first day of the NFL draft is, whatever day that is in April, a phone reminder of that take.
So I don't really understand what that take is. If I'm Joe Shane or Brian Daboll, I am absolutely drafting a quarterback because I know I'm going to be bad next year.
That's
and I
your
get
only,
to point to that and say, look, what did you want? It's a rookie quarterback. And if he makes progress, and maybe they don't make the playoffs, but maybe they win 6 games next year and surprise people, that might give John Mara a reason to give you a 2-3 year extension. So don't really understand that take. The Jags have fired Doug Peterson, but they're keeping Trent Baalke.
Makes a ton of sense. That's exactly what you want to do.
That's more baffling to me.
That is crazy.
Neither of these make. I mean, there are so many. This is the funny thing where you hear a lot of, like, we joked in the opening segment about Oregon State's reactions at times to some of your takes about their teams, and there's this thought of like, we're in sports, we know more than you. You're just dumb media members. There are so, in which we are absolute idiots. There are so many examples like this that I could look at and say, I think I know more about football than you do. None of these moves today, really, even going back to yesterday, make any sense.
The Colts are keeping Chris Ballard.
Yeah, because he's running a tight ship and things are going great. Like, we benched Anthony Richardson halfway through. We have players not showing up to meetings on time. We had the Pats decide to boot Belichick to the side, bring in Gerard Mayo for a year, the chosen one. They fired him after 1 year. We have the Jags keeping their GM, who has done what? But firing their head coach.
Well, he ran Jim Harbaugh out of San Francisco years ago, and then he went to Jacksonville. He's made nothing but bad decisions.
They've won one playoff game, and the entire time he's been there.
That was a lucky win. If
they were down 27-0 at halftime and came back and pulled it out of their ass. We got the Giants holding on to everybody, in which their GM, by the way, last year, how'd Michael Penix look yesterday? Did he have a good game?
He had a great game.
How'd Bo Nix play yesterday? Are the Broncos in the playoffs this year?
Best game of the year.
Did the Giants have a chance to draft either of those quarterbacks last year in the draft? I can't remember, because they took a wide receiver who's been really good as a rookie.
Great
but
rookie year.
What's the one thing that you predominantly need to win in the NFL? That's right. Who are they still looking for this year? And now Swag says that maybe one of the top prospects doesn't even want to play for their team. They had a chance to draft one last year. We don't even know. J.J. McCarthy might go on to be a Pro Bowler too, for all we know. And he was also drafted after Malik Neighbors. Like, the amount of incompetence. Ryan Poles is still the GM of the Bears.
Is this going to be a second or
He's
third
going to be
coach?
allowed to hire their next head coach.
Is this the first? Is this the third one for Ryan Poles?
I think it's the third.
Did he fire John Fox and then hire Nagy?
No, it wouldn't have been.
No,
he wasn't
hire
there.
Nagy.
Fox. He might have hired. He might have fired
Nagy and hired Eberflus.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds right.
So he got to change. This will be his second coaching change?
He has been the GM since 2022.
Okay.
So this will be his third year. So maybe he
he hired Eberflus.
He hired Eberflus. I know that. And so I'm assuming he fired.
But he signed
Nagy?
DJ Moore. He got DJ Moore. They got Caleb. I don't know. You know, that was a nice win for them yesterday. But I just all
it
of this
cost him a
stuff
draft
is-
position, so not really. But you know,
Well, I'm not defending. I don't. I told Swag this. I like to think that I would be level-headed as an owner, but I'm also not a billionaire, so I don't like think in the way they do.
like there's some of these out there that I'm like, the Niners ruffling feathers with Kyle Shanahan. Like, let's clear heads prevail here. The guy's
do you
been
mean?
like, just there's a growing contingent of people that say in San Francisco that trade him, get rid of him.
Oh, Jed
get
York
a culture.
came out. They're not changing.
Of
anything.
course they're not, but there's that rumbling underneath of like, yeah, let's let calmer heads prevail here and maybe not make a reactionary decision. Some of these are just obvious.
See, this is what's weird is like if you were running the Giants. Let me ask you this, then we'll go to Bo Nix. If you're running the Giants, what are you cleaning house?
I'm absolutely cleaning house.
Coach GM, bye-bye.
I am likely going to draft a quarterback with the third overall pick in the draft. By the way, the two teams ahead of you also going to take quarterback. So now you get third pick of the litter because you won a meaningless game at the end of the year when you should have had the number one overall pick in the draft. Now the other two teams ahead of you are going to take a quarterback, so you're going to get the third pick
of the litter. Yeah,
in what is likely a weak quarterback draft class.
There's really two that are anybody's talking about.
Yeah, and there's people already
There's
saying
going to be one that emerges eventually, but
that Sanders doesn't even have a first-round grade. Some of the people that are starting to watch his film of like, what are we doing here? And I know we do that every year. I get it, but you now have the third pick. You're taking a quarterback. I would completely start anew if I'm the New York Giants.
It's going to be wild to watch Cam Ward be a Titan because I just don't connect Titans with being fun, likable watch team probably since Steve McNair and Eddie George. And even then, they had a lot of games like 2016.
God, yeah, it's been a long time.
Aaron McNair had obviously some dope moments,
Yeah.
but to watch Cam Ward be a Titan's going to be weird.
A lot of bad coaching hires in there. And then when Vrabel won, it was more like Dan Campbell grit. Like, we're just going to play defense and run the football.
Which is what the Patriots are going to go back to when they hire Mike Vrabel.
Yes, they are.
Which, by the way, my gambling coach, Lucy Burge, had a fantastic tweet. She said, Gerard Mayo first game, our first win, week 1, Gatorade bath. Gerard Mayo final week win, you're fired. What a season in New England.
I mean, why would you win that game? You cost them the number 1 overall pick in the draft. What are we doing? How do you not know that you're going to
equate for Joe Milton being good?
Because
how can you do that?
Here's what you do if you're running the New England Patriots.
You bench him halfway?
No, you fire his ass before the game because you know you're going to fire him. They know they've known they were going to fire him for a month.
Probably since he called his team.
This song and dance of like, it was a really difficult decision. We had to wait till... Like, no, you didn't. You knew you were going to fire him forever. You fire his ass. You put a stooge in there that you know is going to play all the bad players. And that way you guarantee yourself a loss and you guarantee yourself the number 1 overall pick of the draft.
They started Joe Milton.
Incompetence is what we're dealing with in the NFL. That guy's got a cannon, okay? He's who Anthony Richardson should be.
Let's put a poll question. Team making the most baffling decision to you, whether that's to fire somebody or not to fire somebody. We'll do a poll question on that at Dirt and Sprague. Let's get to the good local NFL story next on The Fan.
College. Well, it's a big show. This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
We'll dive into the NFL playoff matchups. We got all those set up for the weekend. College football playoff this week. That'll be great. Thursday, Friday shows will be fun.
Thursday through Monday, man. This is maybe the best 5-day stretch of football we get of the year.
Oh, that's a great point, yeah.
Well, I guess the next week you would have divisional round Saturday, Sunday, and then the national championship Monday.
Well, if it's Penn State, Ohio State, nobody's
out.
excited for that.
I'm out.
Sorry. I mean, they're just not.
I'm out on that.
You're going to watch it.
We
but
desperately need Notre Dame to win that game.
What is the best matchup?
Notre Dame, Ohio State.
See, you might be right, but I don't know how excited I am for that one.
Well, I personally think Ohio State's going to steamroll everybody, so I don't know how exciting the games will be.
Texas is getting 6.5 right now.
That's a big point spread right there.
I think I'm kind of leaning that the Longhorns.
You fire away, buddy.
Because here's the thing. God, I didn't mean to preview this.
Here we go.
The Texas defensive line against the Ohio State offensive line. And I know you're going to say, well, the Ducks defensive line was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then they weren't in that game.
No, they were terrible.
I just wonder if Texas's D-line ends up showing up. We'll get into that as the week goes on. Poll questions up. Most baffling NFL decision so far on Black Monday. Giants keeping the general manager head coach. Jacksonville fired head coach, keep the general manager. Chicago keeping the GM. Or Indy keeping the general manager. And I don't know if I should add head coach to that.
I think you probably should.
Because people are mixed on Steichen in Indy.
He's been, I don't know how much of it is necessarily his fault, but
the quarterback decision was his fault.
It largely was. And this is how you're judged in the NFL. You get 2 to 3 years to prove it, whether it's fair or not. That's the way the world works, man.
The Broncos took care of the Kansas City Chiefs very easily. The Chiefs got snowed in a little bit in KC, but they eventually left, and then they just didn't care to play.
Yeah, didn't play anybody. They didn't care.
Bo Nix had far and away his best game of the NFL season. He had some really good ones this year, but this one easily was the best game.
Yep.
He had 4 touchdowns, and now the top 2 rookie quarterback touchdown throwers in a season are both Oregon Ducks. Justin Herbert set the record in 2020, and now Bo Nix with 4 touchdowns is second all time.
How about that?
You guys are first and
How
second.
How about that? QBU, that's what they call us, man.
And so Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, by obliterating the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday, they put themselves in the playoffs for the first time since the team won the Super Bowl.
I was blown away when I saw that stat yesterday.
You didn't know that going in?
I don't know why. I just thought maybe a random year in 2019 they got in a wild card spot. I know that the Broncos have been down for a while, but I just felt like they would have stumbled their way in randomly to a wild card spot. I didn't realize it had been 9 years. One of the most remarkable stories in the NFL this year, man. It really is. And it's on the heels of us doing a segment talking about the Giants and their incompetence. They had a chance to draft this guy. They chose not to. Sean Payton, remember, on draft night said, we got our guy, and I got the guy to run my system. And look, it's 1 year. We'll see how this thing plays out over the long haul.
Couldn't have gone better, though.
Don't give them much of a chance to go on the road and win in Buffalo, but that's fine. At this point, you're playing with house money, ending the playoff drought, getting there in year 1, while they're eating, $42 million in dead salary, whatever it was for Russell Wilson. It was $30-40 million, somewhere in that range, that they couldn't even go out and spend on this roster that will be freed up in the years to come. A remarkable story in Denver.
Here was Bo Nix in the postgame after having his best game of the year and getting Denver back to the postseason.
Well, it means everything. We worked really hard for this. Quite honestly, opening the season, nobody expected us to do this, but, we didn't really listen to that. We just came out there and put a lot of games together, and we've lost a few tough ones, but we've also won some big ones, so this team deserves it.
It was a really cool moment, too, after the game. If you didn't see it, he ran around the stadium and high-fived everybody in the front row.
He did.
The whole stadium.
I think he'll give you a high five, man.
It's a great story. We can all feel how we feel about quarterback prospects, and we can hold firm in opinions on stuff. I'm not here to do any other than to give Bo Nix his flowers. He had a great year 1. Fantastic game yesterday. What I loved the most about what I saw from him, ball downfield. He's had games where he's had statistically good games, but he's kind of kept it within the line of scrimmage, and guys have gotten yak. That yesterday, and I know it was the Chiefs just kind of playing their second string, but that was fantastic to see. I don't know what their odds are to actually beat Buffalo. I think you should always go in with a little optimism, but even if you don't win, what a great story for Bo Nix. He won't win Offensive Rookie of the Year,
no,
but he damn sure is going to come close to getting the votes. And it was a fantastic year 1 for him and Sean Payton.
Well, I think a game like that, if you're going to go to Buffalo on the road where they haven't lost in the regular season, you maybe need a little false sense of confidence.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I didn't think about that. They haven't lost at home this year.
No, they're undefeated at home.
Great
and
point.
I haven't seen the weather yet to see how Buffalo it's going to be in Buffalo.
Right now it says 30 and cloudy is what it says. So just cold, no lake effects, no, at least as of now. That's the
well, that won't bug them in Denver.
No,
it was just going to be if there was blizzard or something.
You know what's
the
crazy?
Lake effect.
We can carry this over because we can get into the matchups and stuff. You know what's crazy to think about? if I tell you in August, after they draft Bo Nix, they're going to be in the playoffs, I don't know if you argue with me or if you go, oh, okay, well, that's a great year. I don't know where you would have been with the
I would
opinion.
probably say I don't see that happening would be my response. Wouldn't
I
call you
probably would have
crazy.
been
I
there
wouldn't
too.
laugh at you,
Yes.
but I would say, that's a long shot, buddy.
Right. I would have been there with you. But what would you have said if I told you not only Denver's going to make the playoffs with Bo Nix in year one, they're not even going to be the most miserable playoff fan base going into the playoffs?
No, they're not.
I have teams that are more miserable than the 7 seed in the AFC. So let's talk about the matchups we got. The team that I think is the most miserable going into the playoffs, the fan base. We'll talk about that. Got a loaded second hour. We'll go to Denver. We will talk with Josh Dover, our good friend in Denver, about what it means for Bo Nix and the Broncos to get into the playoffs. And so we got a loaded second hour, a lot of NFL talk next, hour 2 on The Fan.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland, and Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the NFL playoffs all set. The wild card games will include Bo Nix quarterbacking the Broncos into the final wild card slot in the AFC with a 37-0 rout of the Chiefs, who are resting many of their starters. They will now get the Buffalo Bills, the number 2 seed. That game will be Sunday, and the Broncos are 8.5-point underdogs. The other AFC wildcard games will be played this Saturday. Chargers 3-point favorites on the road in Houston, and the Ravens and Steelers will meet in Charm City. Baltimore 9.5-point favorites. In the NFC, Lions leaving no doubt who the top team of the conference is with a 31-9 rout of the Vikings. They get the number 1 seed. Minnesota, as the 5 seed, visits the Rams, the 4 seed. That'll be Monday night. Vikes are 2.5-point favorites on the road. Commanders will go to Tampa. They'll face the Buccaneers in the 6-3 game. Bucs 3.5-point favorites. And then the Eagles are the 2 seed. They host the 6-seeded Packers. Philly 4.5-point favorites. Black Monday in the NFL. Only 2 coaches so far have been shown the door. Gerard Mayo of the Patriots, that happened late Sunday night. And then Doug Peterson this morning was ushered out of Jacksonville. Blazers on the road in Detroit tonight, taking on a Pistons team that's starting to figure itself out. Portland 6.5-point underdogs. It is a 4 o'clock tip. You can see it on KUNP channel 1016 on Comcast. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
One number does it all for contests and texting your favorite fan shows. The Vancouver Ford text line is 503-864-6FAN. Let's get the playoff party started.
On spots, but I think it would have been worth it.
No challenge. First and goal. Dobbins spins his way into the end zone. We'll see you in the playoffs, LA Chargers and your fans.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Wild Card Week with Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
We got stuff to do. We got stuff to do. Hey, who got it better than us? Nobody.
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour 2. Dirt and Sprague here on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and, of course, YouTube.com/1080 AM The Fan.
How do you like me now?
I'm on Team No Sleep. I have like a muscle strain in my neck shoulder area, so like there's no position that is comfortable.
Nothing you can do about it.
And then I wake up to take an old man piss in the middle of the night, and I'm like in agony and just throbbing pain. So I have to turn my body to turn. It's the worst.
I got home from work on Friday, and I was laying on the ground waiting to put Teddy down for a nap. Thankfully, my wife was home, and I was just laying on like a hardwood floor just to like rest a second. It felt good on my back, and then I fell asleep, and I woke up and I couldn't move for like an hour.
Because it hurt so much?
It was like, I was so stiff, dude. I haven't laid on a hard
terrible.
floor like that for a long time. I'm getting old, man.
We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the program. We talked about Bo Nix and the Broncos going back to the playoffs for the first time since they won the Super Bowl with a great defense and a very bad quarterback. That quarterback's name was Peyton Manning.
That it was.
And so we'll go to Denver for the ticker, talk with Josh Dover. They have a very difficult task going to Buffalo. And I said at the end of the first hour that they're probably not going to win, though the NFL playoffs should always give every team a little bit of hope.
Yep.
But they're not going to be the most miserable fan base in the playoffs. So the 7th seed in the AFC.
House money, man. We're just happy to be here.
I think I've identified the most miserable playoff fan base.
It's not even close in my mind.
Okay, let's see if we're on this, okay? Now, look, there could be a lot of upsets. There could be a team that loses in the first round that shouldn't lose in the first round.
Yeah, Philly loses, right? Like, they'll hit full-on panic mode. There's a handful of those.
I was hoping you wouldn't name a team so we could name the team we both think it is.
Okay, well, I still feel like it's easy, and it's not Philly.
The most miserable fan base going into the playoffs, 1, 2, 3 is
the Steelers.
Packers.
Whoa. Packers more miserable than the Steelers right now?
Really?
They may not. Did you see Love get dinged up?
I did see him get dinged up. I know. I grant you that.
They at least
the Steelers got Russell Wilson.
The Steelers. Have you seen the Steelers the last 4 weeks?
Did you?
Yeah.
That's. I mean, it's. Remember we had to have like a month to pretend he was back and good. Remember when that was
if
part of
you
the
go back
discourse?
and look at their schedule, and it was all front loaded with patsies, and then it was back loaded, and they started losing.
So remember when I had to go
Steelers are
back?
only miserable if they lied to themselves.
Well, no. Why? Why are they that way? They had to go through another year where people like me said, look, they don't really have a quarterback. This isn't going to go well. Oh, my God, he can never go below 500. Mm-hmm. You owe him an apology. And then they lost 4 straight games. Their offense looks, God, it looks awful.
Hey, above 500, though.
And I'm telling you, sports radio in Pittsburgh, I bet you right now is just filled with fire this guy. Can we ever move on? Are we ever going to care about having a quarterback? This sucks. And I bet you, if you polled it, I seriously believe this. Of the 100% of Steeler fans you polled, I'd be willing to say 40 or more % of them hope they lose. because they're tired of dealing with this.
I think it's honestly higher than that. I think a lot of people this weekend are doing what I did in the Civil War in 2016. Just put me out of my misery and fire Mark Helfrich. Can the Beavers please win this game?
It's crazy to say this about Tomlin because he has never been below 500, but they haven't won a playoff game. We can talk about the Broncos not making it since the Super Bowl.
Right.
They haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
2016 was the last time they won. They won the divisional round game at the Chiefs, which was, that would have been Alex Smith in 2016? Or no, not even Alex Smith. Who was the quarterback of the Chiefs in 2016? Who knows?
I think it was Alex Smith.
That was the last time they won a playoff game, was that year. It's been a long time. They've been the same team for the better part of a half of a decade, where they're good defensively. They're sound in a lot of different categories. They can usually run the football, but then they lean on it too much, and they don't have a quarterback. They've been the same team every single season, and it's not good enough to win in the playoffs. They lost 31-17 last year on the road in Buffalo. 2 years before that, when they were in the playoffs, they got blown out by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now you're going on the road to Baltimore, a team where you've actually had a lot of regular season success against them, and it looked like you were going to win the division until you lost to them, and then everything kind of snowballed on you towards the end of the season. If they lose this game again by 2 touchdowns, what's the answer in Pittsburgh?
They're patient.
You're going to be the same team next year. You're going to keep everybody around.
Probably.
Russell Wilson will probably return for another season and throw 20 touchdowns and 11 picks. You're going to find your way to 9-8 or 10-7. You're going to be a wild card team. You're going to lose again. This is exactly who they're going to be until they find a franchise quarterback.
Well, there's a lot of intel that if Rodgers doesn't stay with the Jets,
yeah, have fun with that, man.
I know.
Have fun with that.
I tend to agree with you.
Look, you tell me you can choose Russell Wilson next year or Aaron Rodgers. There's a bit of a debate in my head because I don't think either of them are good.
Yeah, I want neither.
But neither of them are going to get you what you want. And what you want is to be back at the pinnacle of the sport, and they're not there. And it's a shame because they have so many great pieces, and their defense is their defense was phenomenal on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow has been lighting everybody up, and people thought that was a trendy play for a lot of folks going into that game.
Don't remind
They held
me.
him down. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive. I don't think Cincinnati scored a touchdown the rest of the game, did they not? I think it was nothing but field goals after that. Kept them around, and then their dumb offense still couldn't find a way to kick a field goal to win the game.
I went 1 for 8 in all 9 bets I made this week, and I'm never gambling on Week 18 again.
It's a good week.
I will never gamble in Week 18 again.
I mean, Russell Wilson, with 30 seconds to go in that game, turned his brain off and just ran into a defender instead of throwing a ball out of bounds. They had 1 timeout left, but they didn't want to use it there, and they just killed 30 seconds for him to gain 4 yards.
He made a lot of bad decisions. Pickens was awful in that game.
Terrible in that game.
Freiermuth, poor guy, had a great game until that last drop. That was the best throw that Russ made the entire night. But, yeah, I disagree with you, Swag. At least the Packers, who may not have had the season they thought they would, Love is now banged up. They're going to Philadelphia. At least they get to go home and say, we got Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs coming back next year. Can we add things on the defense? Can we figure out if Christian Watson can stay healthy, or do we add a piece on the outside to throw to? Pittsburgh, I think largely, I kind of agree with what you said. The assessment's going to be Arthur Smith was good enough. I'm okay winning games 13-10.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, and it's not a great take to everybody in football. I want to actually enjoy watching my team play. I don't want to just say, well, they win. They won 9-8. I want to be excited to watch my team play football. Not watch some ugly-ass slugfest where my team defense is awesome, but we suck offensively.
Punt,
and we win 16-13. I'm just not excited about that. But the playoff matchups are set. So we have Denver going to Buffalo. Give me just a second here. I don't know my show sheet.
You go ahead and pull that bad boy up. You got time. Don't worry about it. Oh, Googling. You want me to read them off? You want me to read them off? I got them right in front of me right now. You want me to do it?
Stop it.
I can do it. You want me to do it?
No,
I got them right here.
Okay, so we have...
I got them right here.
Okay, thank you. We've got Denver going to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Did you not pull it up
Sunday
yet?
morning.
All right, here we go. Here's your schedule.
I got
Saturday,
it.
1:30, you got
it.
Chargers on the road at Texans. That's your 4-5 matchup. You got the Steelers going to the Ravens. That's your...
My ESPN page keeps jumping back. Okay, here it is. Chargers going to Houston, 1:30 CBS.
They are on Saturday?
Chargers
No way.
road favorites.
Dang.
Chargers road favorites.
Could have jumped on it at 2.5, but it's already up to 3.
Pittsburgh's going to Baltimore at 5 o'clock. That one's a prime video game.
That is your prime video playoff game.
Then Sunday, Denver at Buffalo, 10 a.m. CBS. Green Bay at Philadelphia, 1:30 on Fox. That's probably the best game of the weekend.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would say so, right?
Okay. Well, what's the status? Where's Love at?
He says he's playing, but he said he
play.
felt worse yesterday at the postgame.
How limited is he going to be? Because that's the only thing. Like I looked at that line and I thought, Packers getting 5.5. You know, Hurts has been out.
3.5. It jumped quick.
It's been bet up a ton. A lot of money's coming in. I think there's value eventually on Green Bay, but the big contingent on that is what does Jordan Love look like?
And then Washington at Tampa, 5 o'clock on NBC. That's the Sunday night game.
That game could be wild, wacky
yes,
fun.
I agree with you
I'm
there.
excited for that one because I think Tampa, me and Dirt were talking about this during the break, Tampa does the on-off thing. They play like dog crap and either lose or barely win, and then the next week they win by 30. And yesterday, I couldn't have been more wrong on the Tampa Bay team. I thought I'd see...
I mean, show up. What are we doing? They got torched by Rattler in the first half.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. And so Tampa wins. I think that could be fun. And then Monday is Minnesota, since they lost to Detroit. Their reward is, as a 14-win team, they get to go to the Rams. Now, here's the fun scenario. A little did you know. Did you know if Minnesota loses to the Rams on Monday night?
Very well could happen.
Their 4 losses are to the Lions and the Rams.
That's it.
And
that's
it.
right. They lost the game in L.A. earlier this year with
And
the face mask no call at the end.
And if they beat the Rams and lose to the Lions, which Dan Campbell told Kevin O'Connell in the postgame, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I love that.
That's a great line.
Their only losses are to the Lions.
Yeah. That is bonanza.
And one to the Rams.
And one to the Rams
But
in the
what a
regular
season.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to go best game, I understand the argument, Green Bay and Philly. The aesthetics of that will be beautiful. It's how we started the year, remember, in Brazil. It's a pretty fun, high-scoring game. We'll see what we end up getting, and a lot of that comes down to the health of Jordan Love. I think my 2 favorite games of the weekend are a 1A, 1B. Number 1, I'm going to give you Commies and Bucks. I don't really know what to expect in that game. My gut tells me take the Commies plus the 3.5. To your point of the back and forth of the Bucks is 100% valid. They can light you up and score 40, or they can not score a touchdown in the first half, kind of like they did yesterday, but still found a way to win. The Commies have a quarterback who can make incredible plays. Their defense at times has been horrendous this year.
What was yesterday?
Like, I don't know what the hell was going on yesterday.
I couldn't tell if they cared or not.
I don't think they did.
Daniels eventually.
And Marcus Mariota to the rescue, baby. He
Right.
still got it. Give him another starting chance. He still got it.
Ball.
And then you go to Monday night, to me, is my 1B game. I understand the love for Minnesota. I'm a big Vikings guy. I'm rooting for my boy Darnold. I love Kevin O'Connell. Them going on, the Rams almost beat the Lions in wild card round last year. We forget that they went on the road to Detroit and had a great shot at winning that game, and they came up just short. You give McVay, the Rams didn't play anybody this weekend, did they? If I'm not mistaken,
No,
I think they
not
sat
really.
literally everybody.
They sat all their.
They didn't care
because
about
they had
the
nothing
seed.
to play for, and they were
that's
locked
not
in.
True. That's not true.
What?
They could have.
They could
got
have
a
been
better
Tampa.
seed.
They could have been hosting the Buck.
Touche. Okay,
Commies.
so they could have moved up, but the
Yeah,
chances of the Bucks losing, probably in their mind, of the Saints is very minimal.
No, they would have won the tiebreaker.
They both finished with the same record.
Yeah, I think the Rams would have won that tiebreaker. So they would have had the Commies, and the Bucks would have had.
What tiebreaker though? They both are 10-7.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a tiebreaker with.
Yeah,
records.
I know, but I don't. I'm confused.
If the Rams would have won, I believe they would have been
Oh,
the 3.
touche. Okay,
and
gotcha.
The Bucks would have been the 4.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which made I'll see if I'm wrong on this, but
I was
believe
looking at the
that's what
records
I
like
heard
they're
all
both
day.
10-7. I was like, what? Isn't there a tiebreaker? But
Well,
now I
yeah,
see your point.
if the Rams would have won, they
Yeah, I
would have
forgot
been,
that they lost to the Seahawks yesterday because that game was irrelevant and meaningless, and I didn't watch a second of it or pay attention to any of it.
Yeah.
But that game to me is awesome. Minnesota's coming off their worst game, arguably, of the year. Offensively, they looked atrocious last night. They couldn't protect Darnold. They couldn't do anything. Defense eventually gave up a ton of points. Those, to me, are the best games of the weekend.
I also I didn't know this because I was confused why the Rams didn't care. I guess they hadn't had a bye in a long time. That's why they arrested everybody.
I mean, look, I understand matchups are a big deal, and they knew they were hosting a playoff game.
Your confusion on my thing confused me and made me second guess I'm like, wait, what?
I think ultimately I'm right. I flipped that one on you. You didn't see that coming, did you? I honestly totally forgot the Rams and Seahawks even played yesterday. Did anybody watch that game?
I did.
It was on.
I mean, I didn't watch it, but it was on.
Gino made $4 million or $6 million.
All right, good for him. Are they going to go find a quarterback this offseason? Because
no.
What are we doing? We're the same team. I mean, they're just the NFC version of the Steelers that can't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're the same team every year with a bad quarterback.
Seahawks fan seems to be very encouraged by this.
Have fun with that. Keep everybody
Well,
together
the thing
next year.
I'm
That'll go
encouraged
great.
about is that
so negative.
Mike McDonald reinvented his defense midway through the season, and they got significantly better.
I think their problem is the general manager there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
he's skating on that. Super
10
Bowl
years
with
ago,
the
man.
late
10
round
years
picks,
ago.
Yeah.
I don't
and
know.
late in the season, their wins were over the Bears and the Rams, the Cardinals.
Remember that Bear game?
They got killed by the Packers when they played them at home, 30-13.
You knew that
Loss
was
to
going
the
to be an ugly
Vikings.
game.
Like what?
I think just lose it. Like
I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know. I don't know what the
They
crop
beat the Jets
of-
because they got a 90-yard pick six against an 80-year-old quarterback.
They need linemen. They need linemen on both sides of the ball.
It's been the same story for
Yeah.
5 years. They've been the same team.
Wow, you hate the Seahawks.
I do genuinely hate the Seahawks, but
Wow.
they're in no man's land. I would not be happy if I was a Seahawks fan. They are in no man's land without the most important position settled. What are you doing at quarterback? Are you bringing Geno
So
back?
you think that's their biggest issue?
Yeah, I do.
He threw for 4,000
He had
yards?
21 touchdowns and 15 picks. He threw for 4,000 yards because they trailed in half their games
the
and they had
picks
to.
are a problem.
The picks were a problem, especially in the
He's
red
also
zone.
35 years old, man.
And he wants reportedly he wants an extension.
Yeah,
He wants like a big payday.
What are we doing? No.
Sam Howell.
Under any circumstances am I giving that guy a payday.
I feel like the noise on the Seahawks is vastly different than your take
I think
on the
it's
Seahawks.
fairly positive. You need,
I think
you
my
need to
take
find
is right
running,
and your take is wrong.
You need to find running backs who can stay healthy.
That is not your issue.
They need a tight end.
It's not at all. Charbonnet stepped in and had a historic game when they lost Kenneth Walker.
I understand that, but you need more than one.
They got two.
This feels like Dirt is Jon Snow and everybody else is a Seahawks
Am
supporter.
I wrong,
saying,
Seahawk fan? Look, I hate your team, so maybe Seahawk fan just hates me. And I feel like I'm right on the. If I were a Seahawk fan, that's what I would be shouting from the rooftop.
They need some pass rushers.
Why are
and
we
they
keeping John Schneider around still? How is that guy coasting on what happened 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And you don't have. Geno Smith is not a franchise quarterback.
I mean,
Is he a top 10 guy in the league?
Pundits think he is.
That's
every pundit every week.
Every
is like,
pundit
"Geno's
going
been
into the year
amazing
said
in this
C.J.
game."
Stroud was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. How'd that work out for him this year?
Got into the playoffs.
I mean, he had a great
Won a
the
division.
first year he was a starter. He threw 3 touchdowns and 11 picks. He's basically regressed every year.
Who?
Geno,
Oh.
since he's been since that year where they wrote him off and I wrote you back.
I'm just telling you, Seahawks fan feels good.
All right, have fun with that next year. Again, let me guess. Right now, off the top of my head, 9-8 next year, miss the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
That division doesn't seem like it's particularly difficult.
It wasn't this year.
No, it wasn't.
They couldn't win it.
We have a lot more to get into in the NFL. Josh Dover will join us live from Denver. Back with more NFL talk next on The Fan.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
I'm sure Dirt has an opinion on every NFL team if you really pressed him.
By the way, multiple Seahawks fans early. One is trying to troll the Niners and just deflecting the conversation. The Niners are in a bad spot right now. It's not what we're arguing. A lot of Seahawks fans are agreeing with me. GM and coach are the biggest. Mike McDonald had a fine first year. Like I'm not saying
You're already going coach.
No, I'm saying GM and quarterback. My apologies. GM and quarterback are the biggest concerns, and until you figure those out, I don't know how your lot in life changes.
One text listener says at the Vancouver Ford text line at 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them at vancouverford.com. Dirt makes it sound easy to find a franchise quarterback. How many other teams are looking? Should they sign Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold? Actually, Seahawks should sign Malik Willis.
I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound easy. I know that it's incredibly difficult to find a franchise quarterback. That's also your job as a general manager.
Well, I think that's the more pressing, difficult thing. We can, whatever on Geno. I'm largely with you of he's not a long-term answer because of his age. How long does a general manager, and we're seeing this in the NFL today, right? Like general managers are being kept.
Mm-hmm.
How long does a GM skate on success? And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to skate, I guess. He gave that organization their only Super Bowl ever. But that was with 5th and 4th and 3rd and 6th round picks that nobody thought was ever going to lead a Super Bowl charge. And it's great to have a photo. D and F grades. Cool. It's kind of a one-off to do that.
Yes, it is.
It's a very rare thing to win a Super Bowl that way.
They've also done a great job of marketing in the category of, we wanted that guy, but somebody else got him right before we did. Oh, we loved Patrick Mahomes.
We loved
Don't
Josh
you know?
Allen,
We were going to draft Josh Allen if he was there with our pick.
But then they
we
never drafted
totally
a quarterback.
would have taken Josh Allen.
I think that's the difficult thing. I don't know. I don't even know where Seahawk media, Seattle media would be on John Schneider if they even think it's worth discussing. But if I was doing a show,
that would be my first takeaways. How long are we going to let this go
how
on?
much longer is this going to go on where we fall short? Especially this year. That division sucked.
It was terrible.
The Rams weren't amazing. The Niners were terrible. And the Cardinals weren't good.
No, the Seahawks won 10 games this year. You want to guess how many times they beat a team in the playoffs?
Oh, top of my head?
10 wins this season. Nice season, right? How many playoff wins did they have?
One.
The Rams, and I thought they got one other one. Maybe
the Ram
two.
one is the only one I thought of yesterday.
That's it, and it's a game in which the Rams didn't play their guys,
and they almost won. They
almost won the game.
End, yeah.
That's the only win over a team in the playoffs they had all year. The other teams they played in the playoffs: Vikings lost, Packers lost, Rams first time lost, Bills got killed, Lions lost, and they added a loss to the Niners and Giants in there.
Usually, on average, the NFL gives us 6 new playoff teams. This year, 4.
Who are the 4? Chargers, Broncos.
Broncos, Vikings.
Touche. Didn't make it last year. Who's the 4th? Littering Ann. Steelers were there last year. I know that, right?
Commies,
that's right. Commies. Top 3 pick to get there. Yeah, look, it's a tough thing to do. I understand it. It's no different than, to use the Niner example. What do? You got Brock Purdy. He's not a top 5 guy. You got to pay him $50 million. It's a very complicated thing.
I'd say he's a Niner fan. That's going to piss me off.
Yeah, and it should, because he's not worth the money.
Well, but that's to that listener's point, and I feel like we've had this, so I don't want to dive in, but that is the difficult thing of doing those jobs in that league is how do you draw a line at franchise quarterback? If Darnold plays exactly how he played yesterday against the Rams and they lose?
And they lose in the playoffs.
Are we all off Darnold, or is Darnold still good enough to tag and bring back?
Throw the entire year out. The reason why I'm still in on Darnold and against a guy like Geno is because of the age difference. He is 8 years younger than Geno Smith.
Sure.
So committing to Sam Darnold long-term, you're committing to a 27-year-old quarterback. Committing to Geno, again, you're committing to a 35-year-old quarterback. There's a big difference.
Well, we
there.
also don't know if they're committing to Darnold long-term because
we don't.
Still have J.J. McCarthy.
They might even trade their head coach. That report randomly came out this weekend that Kevin O'Connell's got 1 year left on his deal. They're going to trade him.
No.
Trade his ass.
They're not looking to trade him. The report was that teams are looking to trade.
They were trying to call because he has not given an extension.
He will have to leave the Viking. They will not be trading Kevin O'Connell.
It would be one of the most ridiculous, dumb decisions we've ever seen an organization
0%
make.
chance of this happening.
Yeah. There was a cool story on Minnesota over the weekend. You see what their owner did?
Bought tickets.
They bought a bunch of tickets.
2,000 tickets to
right in front or right behind the Vikings bench, and they sold them at a steep discount to their fans. And the Lions tried to report them to the league, and the league was like, they did nothing wrong.
Why would not every team do this?
Because owners are cheap and they don't want to spend money and they don't actually care about their fans.
Do you know how easy
I know.
financially that is for these teams? Like,
You
if
think
you're
Jody
the
Allen's
commies-
doing that? Jody Allen's ponying up a bunch of money to buy tickets for Seahawks fans?
I'm seriously asking this. If you're Washington, you have restarted everything. You've revamped faith in your organization, right? You've gotten rid of the plague, Dan Snyder. Why would you not look at this weekend and say, we may not beat Tampa, but what happens if I buy 5,000 tickets?
Yeah, you buy
give them at an
buy
almost,
out the ship in the end zone or something.
The ship
you
would
buy
be
it,
great.
you give them away at almost a free price, and you say, I'm going to discount airline fees for the 5,000 people. Like, why? Financially, that would be nothing to you.
Yes, it's a drop in the bucket for your vast net worth.
I know. Some of our richer listeners like, you idiot. This is why you're broke and I'm not. You're not wrong. But also, they're billion-dollar industries. We'll go to Josh Dover in Denver, get his thoughts on the Broncos making the playoffs. It's just, this is exciting to me. This is when the NFL, I'm sad the regular season's over. Scott Hansen will no longer be on my television.
R.I.P.
Well, he didn't die.
No, he's still alive.
Scott Hansen was great yesterday, too, with some of the dogs he had to deal with.
Can you give me a time when he hasn't been great? Dare I say Scott Hansen might be
undefeated?
Yeah.
Undefeated in the best football media member.
But he was especially good yesterday.
When the Bears won on a walk-off and Mike Evans got the $3 million bonus catch, that was one of my favorite moments of the red zone for the whole year. And it didn't need to be, because it didn't make or break all that much to me.
No, nothing at all, really.
But simultaneously, all of that stuff going on, or Washington won at the same time the Bears won.
Late touchdown in that game, too.
And Evans had just secured the $3 million. Like, all of that happening consecutively was a lot of fun to watch.
This is what the NFL gives you, man.
I know.
Half the games don't matter, but boy, oh boy, are we glued to it.
A lot of bonuses were given out yesterday as well.
They were. A lot of people got paid yesterday.
Derrick Henry needed 1 touchdown. He got 2. He got a $500,000 bonus.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton needed 82 receiving yards. Bo Nix only threw to him 98 yards, got him $500,000. Von Miller needed 1 sack. He got it, $1.5 million.
Woo, buddy.
Geno Smith made $6 million in bonuses yesterday.
What was that, the 10-win thing? Is that what he got $6 million for?
It was the wins
10
and
wins,
the passing
completion
yards.
percentage, and passing
percentage.
yards.
Little combo platter.
So he needed 69 point whatever percent. He got over it. He needed 185 plus passing yards. He got it. And he needed 10 wins. Got $6 million with that. And Mike Evans, as we mentioned, needed 85 yards. He got 89, came on the last play, got $3 million.
Look, the NFL is king. It will always be king. The playoffs are here. We cannot wait. There is something to be said about how watered down and bad the product is at the end of seasons. The way they force teams to play games in short amount of times, I think it worsens the product. And then you get to week 18 where you're having playoff spots dictated on one team. I don't need to play for anything, and I'm sitting all my guys. And like Denver getting an easy win over Kansas City. If I'm a Bengals fan, I'm livid about that, but you can't blame Kansas City for doing what they did.
They did what I thought. They wanted to knock Burrow out.
Well, and also they don't need to play. Like, why are you risking getting anybody hurt? And then in the same time, we have Baltimore have to play on Saturday. Neither team wanted to be anywhere near that building. They had to technically win to clinch the division. Then Zay Flowers goes down. The Packers are already in the playoffs. They know that, but trying to figure out seeding. Jordan Love gets hurt. It just was another week where I'm like, half the teams don't care. You're giving me like Titans and Colts is on my television. What are we doing here? Why is there a week 18 in the NFL?
Technically, that was Colts Jags.
Colts touche. All those bad teams blend together
wore
for
their
me.
Oiler uniforms
And
against
lost to the
Houston,
Texans, yes.
which is karma.
Yeah, kind of.
But now they got the number 1 pick, so
Last touchdown pass Will Levis threw in a Titans uniform was just a lobbed up ball into double coverage, and the Texans defender was waiting to intercept it, and the receiver jumped in front and caught it. It's like, that's kind of a fitting way for it to come to an end.
We'll have more as we roll on, but the Daily Ticker is coming up next. The Denver Broncos have punched their ticket back to the postseason since they won the Super Bowl. Rookie quarterback Bo Nix leading the charge. We talk with Josh Dover in Denver. Daily Ticker's next on The Fan.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Get your game day grilling into playoff form with help from your local neighborhood butcher. Menus and more at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan. Bo Nix had 4 touchdown passes, only 3 incompletions, leading the Broncos past a Chiefs squad resting many of its starters for a 37-0 win to clinch the final wildcard spot in the AFC. Their reward, a trip to Buffalo facing a Bills squad that has not lost at home in the regular season. They are 8.5-point underdogs. The other AFC wildcard games are Saturday. Chargers are 3-point favorites on the road at the Texans. And the Ravens and Steelers will meet again in Charm City. Baltimore, 9.5-point favorites. In the NFC, Lions get the 1 seed in the bye with a 31-9 rout of the Vikings. So Minnesota now goes to the Rams. That'll be the Monday night game. LA dropped to the 4 seed. Vikes are a 2.5-point favorite there. Commanders will get to go to Tampa and face the Buccaneers, who are 3.5-point favorites. And the Eagles will host the Packers. Philly, a 4.5-point favorite. 9th-ranked Oregon Ducks basketball team got a second-half rally to beat Maryland 83-79. Jackson Shellstad led the way with 23 points. Dana Altman's crew on the road this week, beginning at Ohio State on Thursday. And with a PGA record 72-hole score of 35 under par, Hideki Matsuyama wins the season opening event, the Century, at Kapalua by 3 shots over Colin Morikawa. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan show. Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan. In this wide world of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents The Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague hit the big stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing, your local coastal brewery. Independently brewing since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
Hey, today's Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing with 4 locations along the Oregon coast. Fly over to a Pelican location, enjoy epic views and local brews all year long. Pelican Brewing, look forward to seeing you at the coast. Let's talk to our good friend in Denver, Josh Dover, at Joshua Dover on Twitter. Go give him a follow from denversports.com, ESPN 1043, the fan out there. Josh, good morning to you. If we chatted in August and I told you the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix as a rookie quarterback are going to the playoffs, what would your reaction have been?
I would have asked to check your coffee cup, probably. Is what would have been the reaction there, because that wasn't the case even out here, right, in the Mile High City. And we tend to drink that orange Kool-Aid from time to time. So it was, early on in August, they're talking about, and I'm out at training camp watching battle between Jared freaking Stidham and Bo Nix, who was selected 12th overall. And look, to be honest, there wasn't a big discrepancy in talent. Like, Jared Stidham was a little bit better than Bo early on, and this Bo kind of playing it safe, and we saw a little bit of that throughout the season. But it became evident that, hey, if it's going to be that close, you obviously just go with the kid and see what you got in your draft pick. And we talked about it a lot on my show out here, and I'm sure something you guys can speak on watching him in college. Of he struggles, he improves, and he excels, and he kind of started to follow that pattern throughout the regular season, and had some moments where he'd go back to struggle. And honestly, the Chargers and Bengals game ahead of this Chiefs game on Sunday, he did go back to struggle. His footwork was bad, and he was making bad decisions and trusting his arm a little bit too much in certain situations. But he figured it out, and with the fit of Sean Payton, they are on their way to the playoffs in his rookie year, winning 10 games. And by the way, if you look at stats from a rookie season, only Justin Herbert's been better than Bo Nix.
What are your thoughts on the matchup? Early little peek ahead here. We haven't had the injury reports for it, but going to Buffalo, certainly I think a lot of people, the gambling odds makers, say it's the biggest spread of all of them. What are your thoughts on the matchup and Bo Nix going to Buffalo?
You guys ever get challenged to a fight like in middle school, and you're going to get your butt kicked, but you're like, well, I got to show up, right? Or else it looks even worse. That's how I feel about the game in Buffalo. They got the appointment. They were told 3 o'clock at the flagpole, and you know what it's going to look like. So you just show up, you take the butt beating, and you hope that you become better for it moving forward. So that's what it's going to look like, and that's okay. Us in Broncos country are happily, lining up at the flagpole to take our butt whooping.
I would say this, Josh.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
I don't know about you, and kudos to you, and you can certainly call me a soy boy. I'm not meeting you at the flagpole. I'm getting on the bus.
You're running away? You can't run.
No, we're delaying this another day.
You're going to go tomorrow?
I'm waiting for the bowling to
That
get
ass
bored.
whooping's waiting eventually. You're going to catch an ass whooping eventually, right? Like, it's going to be on Saturday or Sunday, whatever day the game is. On that note, though, it does seem like house money with this, right? Like, nobody, I think their over-under was 5.5 at the start of the year in Vegas. They clearly doubled that up. They make the playoffs. So you got house money this week, and everybody's expecting Denver to lose. If you don't, that's wonderful and great for them. If not, hey, we'll go into next year. I wanted to go on that note. What's remarkable about what they did this year, too, is the fact that they ate all that money with Russell Wilson and just said, you know what, you're gone. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head how much that is, but how does that look into the future? And because I think we're in this model now in the NFL where people want to capitalize on these young quarterbacks and, hey, you got, 4 or 5 years of control and cheap salary where maybe you can make something happen. How much is that Russell contract going to hang over their head in the years to come? And if they do lose this weekend, what are the needs that they need to go attack with potentially some of that money to not just, hey, this was great to make the playoffs, but now we're going to get our ass kicked next year?
Yeah, that's a great question about the Russ situation, and that's part of the story of why this is so great. Rookie quarterback, coach that everybody thought was washed, a roster that, let's be honest, the roster still has a lot of holes on it and needs some work, but it was $52 million this year. It's going to be 30 next year that they're still going to have to eat. So that's a part of the story. You're doing it with that much of a cap hit. And I really do believe they're going to be a player this year. You look at what Sean Payton did in his first year with the Broncos, and obviously working with George. they went out and spent the most money on the offensive line and getting Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers from Baltimore and San Francisco. So I believe they're going to be big players with a lot of money. Greg Penner, rich guys don't lose, man, right? And Greg Penner's the richest guy. So he's going to be able to spend some money. They're going to put an emphasis on tight end. I believe tight end and free agency, and then running back, second part, third part of the draft there is what they'll be looking at. And then dependent on what happens with some of the interior defensive linemen, that might be a target in the draft as well. But some of the Broncos really need to help Bo Nix. It's not even on his side of the ball, but it's an inside linebacker. They haven't put an emphasis on that position since a guy named Danny Trevathan was on the Super Bowl team. They went to Chicago and was really good. But that's actually what they need, maybe even more than a tight end or a running back, because I trusted Bo and Sean so much. I might put an emphasis on that side.
I also wouldn't be shocked to see Tez Johnson, a wide receiver at Oregon, who became Bo Nix's brother. I don't know if you've heard that story 80,000 times I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up picking him up, just because they also picked up Franklin, and so they seem to be okay with what Bo likes. Cortland Sutton is a name that hit a big bonus yesterday thanks to Bo Nix. He needed a certain amount of receiving yards. He got it. He got a $500,000 bonus. He really came on at the end of the year. He had a nice year. He got over 1,000 yards at receiver. Just your thoughts of his development this season with Bo building that chemistry.
Big season for those two. How about this for Cortland Sutton? This was the second time in his entire NFL career he's caught balls from the same quarterback throughout an entire season. And the other one was Case freaking Keenum. So that doesn't count. So it was huge, man. And really, you go back to what you said, how they kind of started to come on at the 4, 5, 6 weeks final part of the season there. I noticed it a bunch. Portland and Bo, pre-snap, they were recognizing the same things. And I don't know if it was a hand wave, a wink, an eyebrow raise, whatever, to know that they were on the same page, but they were more often than not. And that led to a lot of those back shoulder throws, recognizing it's man, I'm going to turn on the gas and then just hit the brakes, and the ball will be there waiting for me. But those two really developed some nice chemistry. I honestly would expect, because Cortland's only got 1 year left on his deal, I'd expect the Broncos to get him nothing crazy, 2 or 3 years extended on that, so that he can be here while Bo is really continuing to develop.
Yeah, last one for you, Josh. I mean, Wild Card Weekend is incredible. We can't wait. Broncos are a part of it. First time, ending that playoff drought that they have been in since winning that Super Bowl. 10 a.m. on Sunday. We're all kind of going in foregone conclusion. What's the recipe? What's the recipe for Denver? What are the strengths that they have that you think, hey, you make this a ball game a little uncomfortable in the fourth quarter? What do they need to do well?
Jump out quick. Go back to a Week 3 Broncos game. It's kind of like the first, oh, dang, this Bo Nix guy might be it. They came out in Tampa and had a great game start. They scored on their first drive. And think about this with Buffalo. There's a history there with their playoff, right? Not that they've been bad, but they've just ran into Patrick Mahomes and company. But you get yourself a 7-0, a 10-0 lead, a 13-3 lead, something like that. The pucker factor, boys, that's a real thing, right? Like, if that's going on in Buffalo, the fans will start to get nervous. You wonder if Josh Allen starts to press a little bit. And then the other part of that, weather. I know everybody's talking about weather and that being a big concern for the Broncos. Well, I actually think that might be an advantage, because the gripe I had all year about Sean Payton is him being allergic to running the football. Well, if it's snowing cats and dogs, you don't have many options. So I might be rooting for snow if I'm a Broncos fan to keep Sean Payton in check a little bit. So get out to an early lead, make that pucker factor a real thing, and run the dang ball, and the Broncos will have a puncher's chance. Just like I said, a puncher's chance. At the flagpole, if you sneak one quick, you might have that chance. That's what the Broncos have.
You got to land that haymaker early, right? You got to catch them off guard. We'll see if they can do it on Sunday. It's going to be fun. A great rookie season for Bo and Denver. They end their playoff drought, and they are heading back to the playoffs. Josh Dover, you can go follow him on Twitter, at Joshua Dover, our good friend out in Denver, denversports.com, 104.3 The Fan out there. Thanks so much for the time, man. Enjoy the game this weekend. Let's catch up again soon.
Always enjoy being with you guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Josh Dover from Denver on the Broncos. Say, hey, look, you got to meet the bully at the flagpole. They're going to get their ass whooped, but what the hell? We're just happy to be here, and let's take a couple of punches.
I could see them keeping it a little closer than people think. I mean, time of possession is going to be huge, right? Operating and keeping Josh Allen off of the field. A fast start would certainly help there. If Bo is able to just be okay with the football and not throw it into dicey spots, there's a chance. Their defense has moments where they can be a really good unit. It's a bummer we didn't get time to ask him if he's shocked that Russell Westbrook's been better as a Nugget this year than Jamal Murray.
Yeah. That's going on.
Did you know that?
I totally knew that.
You know Westbrook was a Nugget.
Who didn't know that? God, idiot. You not watching the NBA? I thought that was your sport. What are you doing over there? Last time the Bills played a rookie quarterback, do you remember what happened in the playoffs?
Rookie quarterback.
Buffalo.
Go back to Ben Roethlisberger?
No, you got to go
was it more
back
recent?
to the next Tom Brady.
Oh.
Remember, Mac Jones as a rookie led the Pats to the playoffs, and they played at Buffalo in Wild Card
housed
Weekend,
them, didn't they?
and it was 47-17 was your final. It was 27-3 at halftime in Buffalo.
See, that's the thing about the expand. I think that was the first year they expanded wild
I believe
card
it was,
as well.
and they were the 7th seed. Yeah.
So it's like, not that this Denver team isn't there per se, but you kind of look at a 7 seed and you go, in my lifetime, you're not a playoff team.
Probably not going to happen very often.
You got in, you got a shot, and to his point, see what you do.
Well, and I think to his point at the end there, you're playing with house money, man. All the pressure's on, but like this is the year for Buffalo. You built again for this year. You're supposed to go on a run, all that stuff. Denver gets out to a 10-0, 14-0 lead. The pucker is there. I totally agree with Josh. Today's Daily Ticker, of course, brought to you by our great friends at Pelican Brewing with 4 locations along the Oregon coast. Fly over to a Pelican location and enjoy epic views and local brews all year long. Pelican Brewing looks forward to seeing you at the coast. Let's stick in the NFL. A couple of coaching rumors out there of teams that are looking to go hire a guy. One guy being incredibly selective. What do we make of his future? We'll dive into some of that stuff next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainshomservices.com.
Those aren't things that are exciting, truthfully, from my perspective. Not where I want it to be this year, not where our team want it to be. You know, those are the things that you get when you're not playing well enough, and that's where we are.
The Patriots fired Gerard Mayo after disappointing year one after firing Belichick for him. The Titans fired Mike Vrabel, hired Brian Callahan. They got the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. He has his choice now of what quarterback he wants to pick.
I, for one, am shocked that this happened. The coach that everybody said last year, why would you fire him? And now is the number 1 commodity on the open market for everybody to go after. I'm shocked that this didn't work out for the Titans.
Who's stinking it up? The Tennessee Titans and Brian Callahan. Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful. Let the pros tackle the projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Home Services. That's threemountainshomservices.com.
of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan. It's crunch time.
Let's go!
Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
Hey, Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. We get to some good news for a local team in the final hour of the show. The Blazers played this weekend. We were actually able to watch them on YouTube TV. That was delightful. That transpired.
Yeah, Blazer Vision is back.
Blazer Vision is here. Did you watch? Yeah. Yay or nay?
Well, and there's a listener right now that, is basically, I'm kind of tired of the anti-NBA talking points. It's getting boring.
Okay.
And I'm also, I think I joked
like
about
us
it.
talking about it, or just the general conversation around the Lee Association?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we joke. We like to have fun with it, right? And I know you don't catch all of the games. That's certainly okay.
I'll get there, man. NFL playoffs are wrapping up. It'll be done in a couple of weeks.
But it is like, we're almost to a point like, what else is there going to be?
Yeah.
Spring football?
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear how great Dante Moore looked in that game against his own teammates where they couldn't touch him.
You got to light the world on fire.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
better run.
After the Super Bowl,
better run and hide in September, bitch. We're coming for you.
Is it baseball season? Yeah, it's like, where are you turning?
I mean, you turn to basketball. That's next. And then it's March Madness is right around the corner. Then the NBA season begins. Everybody's on board.
See, I got my head buried in college basketball, but that's because I'm working.
You work in it. You got to call the games.
Yeah.
You got to scout Oregon and Maryland on a Sunday.
Yeah, he doesn't, actually. The team's going to lose.
I love that. I just love that you watched that game yesterday. One of us needed to watch that game.
On the
It's
second
good.
screen.
I saw it.
I'm glad somebody watched it.
Keeping tabs on the Big Ten.
I'm not going to Peacock on a Sunday. It's not happening. I'm not opening my Peacock app. Yeah. The Red Zone's on my TV. What the hell's the matter with you two? What do we make of Rex Ryan thinking he's going to be the next head coach of the New York Jets?
Oh, that's just Rex Ryan.
Really? Because if they don't get Mike Vrabel, who are they hiring?
I would be very surprised.
Vance Joseph?
I don't know.
So Ben Johnson's the other guy I wanted to tie into this segment, the Lions offense coordinator who was connected to all these jobs again this year for a second straight. Everybody said last year he's gone, he's got to take a job. And then he said, no, I'm not going to take a job.
Yeah.
And now he's doing the same thing this year where it appears the Jets wanted to bring him in for a formal interview. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. So he has been, again, for a second straight year, incredibly selective on the interviews that he'll even do and the teams that he'll even sit down with. And part of me is impressed by that. Also, part of me wonders if that is the right strategy because he's got the ability to kind of be picky and choosy with the jobs that he gets. Will that continue in perpetuity? We did this with Eric Bieniemy for a while, and a very drastic different thing. But for years, it was like, how long until Eric Bieniemy gets a head coaching job? And then he became the offensive coordinator at UCLA, and they fired him after a year.
Yeah,
and I don't even remember where he ended up going forward.
I don't think he's gotten a job, has he?
I have no clue.
No,
he'll
not
probably be on the
head.
chief staff next
Hanging
year in
out
some
in LA.
capacity.
So that's interesting. Like, it's just interesting. Like, we have Rex Ryan saying on ESPN this morning, I think I'm going to get the Jets job, essentially, which I'll have fun with that. Would be a very Jets hire. And Ben Johnson picking and choosing basically which teams he'll even interview
Trying to
for.
figure out what Woody Johnson's going to do is
something stupid,
Well,
probably.
that's a pretty wild. I mean, look, he might be right. He certainly is the last coach to have success as a Jets coach.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing to come out publicly and say you're going to get it.
Yeah, if
right
I'm
now.
a team or GM or an owner, I'm like,
I'm scratching your name off. See ya.
Yeah.
You can't go on. He really went on ESPN and said, I'm going to get the Jets
I'm
job?
paraphrasing, but there was a headline that came out this weekend that said Rex Ryan that came out this morning, that Rex Ryan insinuates he will get the Jets job.
He got the interview. I always think that's kind of a solid favor that they're going to do for him, given he, again, was the last coach to be successful there. I don't know. We always look at these things from the outside and project how we feel about it and say, like, why? Who? It's one of 32 gigs.
Right.
So, like, a lot of people want that job. You can think whatever you think about Woody Johnson, and we've read enough this year to say he sucks, but it's still a head coaching opportunity, and we've seen bad organizations basically get saved. The Bengals didn't have a great reputation, and then they drafted Joe Burrow, and they still have a questionable one, and I know this year didn't go the way they wanted, but they've been to a Super Bowl, AFC title game. They've had, I would say, success in the Burrow era.
Mm-hmm.
You can overcome some of that leadership. So they're still enticing. Rodgers may or may not be on this roster. I particularly wouldn't want that.
I'd be pretty shocked if he was back again next year.
Well, they have to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first question.
That's the unfortunate
if I'm
thing.
interviewing for that head coaching job is Aaron Rodgers going to be here or not? Do I have a say in it? And then the rest of the interview can go on.
It needs to be a full blow-up.
Or it will end.
Rodgers is gone. You're paying him off. Let's do the gym, coach, partnership thing. Woody Johnson, I don't know if you're serving in this next administration like you did last time they were in office, but if you are, go away.
Go overseas for 4 years. See you later.
Let Brick come in, play Madden in my office. We'll be buddies, and he can give me his thoughts, and I'll never listen to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it really can be that simple and get fixed. We don't have a lot of history of the Jets being good in our life, but it's New York. It might be a full rebuild chance there with the right combination of general manager and coach. So I would imagine they can do better than Rex Ryan.
Maybe Woody Johnson's in the feet, too.
Well, I mean, Rex was his coach.
That's what I'm saying. They could be feet guys together.
He runs a lotion company.
That
so
he does.
I imagine he has some
Lotion
level.
feels great on your feet.
Absolutely does.
Delightful.
We got to lotion up. It's that season.
I love when my wife lotions my feet.
I don't have that.
You don't enjoy that?
My wife doesn't lotion my feet.
You don't like getting your feet touched, huh?
I'm not really.
You're out on feet, aren't you?
I'm not a big feet.
You're an anti-feet guy.
I'm not. Yeah.
Anti-feet guy.
Feet are gross.
You pro or anti-feet, Swag?
Anti-feet.
Anti-feet?
They're
No.
disgusting.
I'm going to put a poll question up. Are you
No.
pro or anti-feet?
It's a gross body part.
Well,
It's
clean 'em.
holding all your
What's
weight.
the matter with you? Clean them up. God,
Yeah,
what's
it's
the matter
still
with
gross.
you? You wash them when you shower? You
I
wash
do.
your feet?
I do.
Okay, just checking.
I scrub between the toes because I get the sock. You ever get? I buy
Yeah.
socks and there's like my socks.
You got the little things in between your toes. You got to clean them out.
Am I wrong in
You've been in
saying
there for a
that
month.
my socks didn't do that as a kid? And
you-
now, like every pair of socks that I put on that's new, it's
I
just
would
like
say-
covered in.
You want to make socks great again? Is that what you're telling me?
You probably didn't pay attention to your socks when you were a kid as much.
I washed my feet as a
That's
child.
probably a valid argument on Swag's part.
You didn't wash your feet as a kid?
Yeah, I washed my feet. But you're not paying attention to your socks.
I notice if I have
Yeah, I wash
fuzzies
my
in
feet.
between
Needs
my
to be a drop.
toes.
Yeah, wash my feet. That needs to be a drop.
You mean I didn't pay attention to my feet as a child?
You weren't
You
looking down
said
there, were
socks, not feet.
When you take your socks off and go in the shower, my shower gets filled now with sock residue.
What kind of socks are you buying, man? Where are you getting your socks?
Nike.
Wow.
Uncle Phil.
No wonder their stock's down. Can't make socks anymore. The hell happened? Give money to my more money to my program. We need to win a big game.
Are you a foot guy?
I don't know. Maybe. Find out in the final hour. Crunch Time brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver online.
Crunch will put your feet to work.
That they will. You got to keep working them out.
Is that your kink?
Stay fit. I don't know.
Foot guy, huh?
Find out coming up at 8:15.
Guess that. Well,
Good
maybe I
local
would've.
news also for one team. We'll get to that in the final hour. The Blazers played. They
Hey,
were on
Mr. Dirt.
television this weekend. Hey, you connect dots eventually, right? A couple of more coaching notes I want to get to across the National Football League. It is a loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Join your local Crunch
By George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland, and Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the NFL postseason tournament is all set. Final wild card spot in the AFC was grabbed Sunday when Bo Nix threw for 4 touchdown passes, leading his Broncos past a Chiefs squad resting most of its starters 38-zip. They will head to Buffalo this Sunday to take on the Bills, 8.5-point underdogs. The other AFC wildcard games will be on Saturday. Chargers up first, 3-point favorites on the road at the Texans. And then the Ravens and Steelers will do battle for a third time. This one's in Charm City. Baltimore, a 9.5-point favorite. In the NFC, the Lions hammered the Vikings Sunday night 31-9 to get the number 1 seed in the bye. So Minnesota, the 5th seed, will head to the Rams Monday night. Vikes are 2.5-point favorites. The Commanders will go to Tampa Bay and face the Buccaneers, who won the NFC South. The Bucs are 3.5-point favorites, and the Eagles host the Packers Sunday. Philly 4.5-point favorites. After taking in the Lions-Viking games on the sideline, Chauncey Billups ready to lead his Blazers against his former Pistons teams tonight in Motown. 4 o'clock tip on KUNP, that's channel 1016 on Comcast. Portland 6.5-point underdogs. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan. It's gonna get wild this week.
And that should do it. Extra special here in Denver. They'd only beaten the Chiefs 1 time in the last 18 meetings. And today they hammer Kansas City to clinch the last playoff spot in the AFC.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
A great story. The fans deserve it.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan. 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube. Nerd! Hope your Mondays are going great. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. One of our P1s said, there's no kink shame in here. Dirk and like feet as much as Sprague loves being into furries. Hey, let everybody do their own thing, man. We don't shame on this show. That's how we roll. Good news for one local school I would like to get to in the final hour. Well, what local school am I talking about?
Probably mine, because we got a tight end from Miami.
You did get a tight end from Miami this weekend.
Yep.
Riley Williams, name right? Is that right off the top of my head? Perfect.
NFL talent.
He was a highly touted kid coming out. Mario stole him from Oregon. I think it was Oregon and Miami was the recruiting battle there, and he followed my Cristobal to Miami when he went down there.
Shaking in your boots for our matchup next year.
We're shaking in. You got Malik Murray. You got a quarterback now all of a sudden? You got a tight end to throw the football to?
Tyrese Ivey just got another year of eligibility because he's a JUCO kid.
We're going to do it right now. Really good weekend for your school.
Nice.
And I would also ask, I don't know what this means long term. Who the hell knows? If some of these guys have good years, are they immediately back in the portal next offseason? How's all that going to work out?
Also, cha-ching.
The news came out. So I think we kind of knew this, but I don't follow this lawsuit or settlement or financial disclosure stuff as closely as probably a lot of Beaver fans do.
As a Beaver alum, I'll tell you, I speak for myself here. Don't really care to. Find it really boring. A lot of fake lawyers on the internet.
A lot of those.
Just tell me when this happens. Tell me the amount and why they got it, and I'll be, okay, cool, and I'll move on with my day.
Well, this is one that's not like a debate or hey, will they win this lawsuit against this conference? This is cold, hard cash coming to your program and coming to Washington State. And that was revealed. I think Wilner had this report over the weekend that in the college football playoff payments, which, by the way, I don't know if we talked about this on the air last week, every conference gets $14 million when their team wins a playoff game.
When the team wins a playoff game.
So you win a playoff game, your conference gets $14 million. So Ohio State's win over Oregon, $14 million goes to the Big Ten, and they disperse that money out. Notre Dame not being in a conference, they just get to eat the $14 million themselves.
Shout out the ACC there. You give them a schedule, and then you get none of the rewards that they get.
None of that money.
Well, I think it's staggered. So you get a bonus for getting in. Then they got one for getting the one victory. So it wasn't 14 for the one win. I think that's what they have accumulated.
Okay,
so
but
far.
the point is everybody else shares it with their conference.
Yeah.
Like Ohio State,
Yeah.
Penn State, Texas sharing it with their conference.
And that's why they will never be in a conference.
And they get another $6 million if they win the semifinal.
That's almost
game.
$20 million.
Yeah.
Just like that. Boom. They're paying for coaches' salaries for the next 10 years. This came out, though, in the college football playoff payments. The Washington State and Oregon State have sole access to the terms of the Rose Bowl agreement with the Pac-12 for the next 2 years. So that was in place until 2026. So it continues this year into next season as well. And the Pac-12 receives approximately $50 million annually as a part of its deal with the Rose Bowl. That, again, will be in place until 2026, and then they're going to strike that from the record. So you enjoy it now. But for this year and next year, Oregon State and Washington State will get $50 million each per year, and that will total in $100 million over the next 2 years.
So it's each. It's not split $50 million?
It's approximately 50. The Pac-12 receives, $100 million total, so they'll each get $50 million
for 2 years.
over the 2 years. So $25 million per year.
Which, look, all jokes aside, we love to rib each other on this topic, but I don't know if you'll ever find a better $25 million for Oregon State fan than how they got that money.
Oregon gets crushed in the game, and you get $25 million watching my team go down 34-0 in the first half.
100%. I don't know if it ever gets sweeter than that unless it happens again next year.
That has to be the sweetest paycheck of all time.
Easily.
When that $25 million clears and it's in your account.
I had in high school, I had a substitute teacher, and I can't remember what class, but it was a class that wasn't of like real concern. It was like an elective. We had a substitute teacher come in and randomly just spend the entire class. He didn't teach us. He talked about his son made a big investment in a company, a startup company. And he tells us the whole backstory to this. And he basically ends by saying, and this will date myself, that his son was on the ground level investment of Hollywood Video. And he made $35 million on that investment, and his son framed the check and made a copy, and his dad also has a framed copy of the $35 million check.
Wow.
Oregon State should frame this check.
Frame that check.
And then hang it in the banner. Or
put this on a banner and hang it in your stadium.
I mean, look.
I'd be okay with that.
Their whole lot in life has been completely disrupted, and so everything hasn't gone smoothly.
Let me ask you, though,
this is one of the few bright spots they've had in like the last 2 years.
And I know, look, I snort this stuff more than you do, so that's, to be fair. I am curious to ask, and Beaver fan can chime in on this. I'm just curious what your feeling is. How much different your feeling is now than maybe opposed to that 28-0 Air Force Day, right? Where that felt like rock bottom. You feel like, where do we go from here? You seem lost. We don't have a quarterback. You wore a bag on your head that next Monday. Mm-hmm. From that moment to, and again, I don't know what all this is going to mean in terms of win-loss success for next year.
Right.
But Oregon State clearly has had their NIL stuff figured out. They're not getting all these guys pro bono. Malik Murphy, Duke just paid a quarterback $4 million a year, the Tulane kid that they got over the next 2 years. Like, Malik Murphy's getting paid. Riley Williams doesn't come here for free. He's getting paid. So you clearly have some level of NIL figured out. You're not competing for the biggest fish in the pond, but you never were in the first place. Like, I feel like, and maybe Oregon State fan disagrees with this slightly, I feel like there's a lot of positive momentum, not just this $25 million over the next 2 years that you're getting. You plugged your quarterback hole. You've lost a couple of key guys on defense in the portal, but you've plugged a lot of other holes around the roster. You added a tight end this weekend. Like, they got a manageable schedule next year where you're not really playing that many challenging games.
Well,
they got a chance to rattle off some dubs next year.
Well, I think the good part about the schedule, I can't speak to the talent on all the teams they're playing because some of them I've never followed in my life.
That's fair.
There's a lot of first-year guys. I forget. Robbie Ashford just committed to Wake Forest, and he basically said, I'm going to Wake because Dickert's been amazing with quarterbacks. And I'm like, well, have you looked into it? Probably not, but you want to start, and Dickert's maybe offering that opportunity. So a former Duck is going to come to Corvallis and play Oregon State next year.
And he's a good athlete, but he's bounced around a bunch.
I mean, Jaden Rashada. That might
back in the portal.
That might need to be a topic. But the point you're making is a valid one. Now, I don't know. I don't know what all of it means, but you got a nice payday from the Rose Bowl. You got a guy from Miami that was once coveted by your rival and went to Miami. So, okay, there's some maybe NFL talent coming. Murphy had a nice season at Duke, so that's great to at least feel better about the most important position on the field.
You got a quarterback.
Their biggest question mark's just going to be, you can just assume the coaching's going to be stellar, that the talent's better. We don't know it yet. And so there's still, for me, a bit of a prove it. I know Bray is capable of coaching a great defense. I've seen it. How much is he going to help Keith Hayward? They've lost a couple assistants. You can say that doesn't really matter, whatever. Yeah, guys lose assistants all the time.
Yeah, tight end coach is bolted with Jonathan to Michigan State after a year.
Quarterback coach, another coach is going to go to Idaho. What's Gundy's offense going to be now that he has his big body, big-armed quarterback? He's got another weapon. He's keeping a couple receivers. Okay, here we go. Running backs are coming back. All right, there's a little bit of expectation buildup paired with their first-year head coach opponents. You certainly feel a lot better today than you did after losing to Air Force, but that season also did happen.
It did.
So it's a bit of a prove it. The men's basketball team is still hovering in that top 64 net rating. I'm looking today, they're at 66, 67, depending on how they readjust it. The women's team's coming out. So there's some bright spots for Oregon State, but certainly that was good news over the weekend to get that payday.
I mean, the two that I circled, by the way, they opened the season on August 30th against Cal, who Cal's quarterback is likely going to be to start that game.
I do.
It is
Garen Sagapotule, whatever.
He wants to start right away.
Yeah, the kid that it was at Oregon for a week. He got free tickets to the Rose Bowl. Smart move on his part. He just got to go walk around the Rose Bowl field and then was like, all right, thanks, guys, I'm out.
Did he get the grab bag as well?
He probably got a grab
bag?
bag. He probably got a bowl game prize bag. He played that perfectly, parlayed it into a starting job at Cal. He wanted to play right away, why did you go to Oregon in the first place? I don't know, but hey, good luck to you. Cal lost their starting quarterback. Mendoza hit the portal. I don't know if he's found a home yet or not. But that kid's going to start. So you're going to likely face a freshman quarterback at home right out of the gate. The two that I would circle for Oregon State next year, Texas Tech, if you don't look now, has had a really good
number
portal
one
slate.
In the portal ranking.
They have crushed it.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Sometimes those gel, sometimes they don't. It's at Texas Tech.
I tend to lean loss, but okay.
That's your third game, and then obviously the Civil War is back at Autzen this year, so you got that one at the end of September. Dude, after that, you got Houston at home, at Appalachian State, bye week, Lafayette, which doesn't sound like a real college, Wake Forest, Washington State, Sam Houston, at Tulsa, bye week, at Washington State. You got Washington State twice, and they lost literally everything.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, you just mentioned, is going to have a first-year head coach with maybe Robbie Ashford as their starting quarterback. I got no clue what Houston's bringing to the table, but you got them in Corvallis. My whole thing, if I looked at it holistically as a Beaver fan, and I just tend to be a more positive thinker sometimes than others, but my whole thought process would be, how do we put ourselves in a position to where in 2026 we're competitive? And that would be the encouraging thing for me. You're still in no man's land without a conference. There's nothing that you can really play for at the end of the season. There's no playoff bid that you're going to get next year.
You're not going to get ranked high enough.
Right? None of that will happen. The whole thing in Washington State this year was never going to happen. But what happens in 2026? You got a conference. Now, you still got to find one or two more teams. Boise State was just in the college football playoff, man. They just played Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. You got a first-round bye. Now, that's not going to happen. But how do you put yourself in a position to where in 2026, when you are in a conference, that you built momentum and you go into the year where you're kind of like, hey, Oregon State can make some noise. And at least it seems like, again, we got to wait and see how it looks on the field. They're trending in that right direction, have a much better year 2 under Bray than they did year 1.
I did not have you storming the show today with Oregon State football schedule talk.
You like that?
That's crazy.
You like that talk right there?
I mean, look, I think you're bringing up a valid thing. Duck fan right now, you should still your basketball team won against Maryland. Your football team's going to be fine. I know it sucks. You lost. This was a nice little weekend for the Beavs.
You needed it.
Destroyed Steve Lavin and his beautiful set of hair at Gill Coliseum over the weekend.
Where's Steve Lavin at now? Where's he coaching at?
University of San Diego, the Toreros.
God, that guy. Living the dream.
He is living the dream. No expectation. No. What are you going to fire him for? What are you going to do?
I'm going to go slick my hair back on the beach. This is great.
There's two jobs that might be the best in America right now in sports. Fired college football coach because of the payday, and low-level men's basketball coach because you can't compete in a portal.
No.
Your best option is a JUCO transfer. What's the expectation? And they're not paying you enough, I think, to care enough to fire you.
No, athletics aren't that big of a priority at schools like
what's
that.
Steve Lavin making at San Diego, your guess? $180K? $200K?
I think
3
it's probably
to 400.
You think it's 3 to 4?
Yeah.
So he probably has a sweet-ass apartment somewhere in San Diego with a great view, if not a nice little house.
One coach who was contacted by, so they hired him. One coach who was contacted said that the school would be paying between $800,000 and $1 million.
Wow. Okay, maybe there is more expectation in San Diego.
His annual salary, he earned $500,000. Maybe it's gone up. That was in 21-22. Now it says his annual salary is $1.15 million.
I mean, he's got the best gig in America.
That's a really good job right there, man. I want to be Steve Lavin when I grow up.
No, I think there's some good things to point to for Oregon State, but also my only thing, because the schedule seems favorable here in January, do what you want to do, I guess. Fandom to each, but I just be cautioning of this whole build up of how amazing the team and season's going to be. There was a lot of that noise last year, and that season did not go well in any way.
Yep.
And so certainly things are a little different here. Feels better having a quarterback, but just be careful being the preseason champs again.
Time will tell. They got $25 million watching my team get crushed in the Rose Bowl because the Rose Bowl and the Pac-12 are still partners for 2 more years. So that check will come again next year. They're going to get another $25 million, both Oregon State and Washington State each. So you got $50 million for each team over the next 2 years.
Both Oregon and Oregon State might both suffer the same fate with their collective fan bases of we're the offseason champions.
Offseason champs, man. I mean, perennial champs. You're making a run for our title right now. Making a run.
Somebody's got to hoist that trophy.
How dare you steal our category? Offseason champs, 13 years in a row, bitch. Put that in your pipe.
Both fan bases are going to do it next year.
You're damn right we will. You see our recruiting class for next year? Dude, we're loaded.
Tez Johnson says Dante Moore's going to be a Heisman finalist.
And tell me where he's wrong. Exactly. Let's get to a couple more NFL thoughts from the final weekend, including a couple other coaching tidbits.
One coach receiver asking out.
We did?
Oh, you missed this.
No, what happened?
Star wide receiver basically saying, I'm
touche.
Out.
I did see that. Yeah, but I got a whole bunch of NFL stuffs in my notes. It was a busy week 18. We'll dive into more of that, including one random non-football factoid that I saw over the weekend that I would like to get to. That's next on The Fan.
This is a wild card week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
You know, I'm happy that my guy Bo made the playoffs in his rookie year.
Are you a Bo lever?
I'm a Bo lever. I mean, not really this weekend. I might gamble on the Bills.
I have a, I don't mean to interrupt your tease there, your setup for the segment, but I have a very quick question for you.
Okay.
We all give opinions on quarterbacks, right? And so, like I said, I think Bo's going to have a long, great career. not necessarily a franchise guy.
Yeah, Mariota's still in the NFL winning games.
Yeah.
He's been around a long time.
Got a game ball,
Yeah.
really respected and loved. That today looks like a bad opinion, right? Denver made the playoffs. Bo had a great rookie year. I have a bet with a listener. I don't remember what we bet specifically, but I know I made a bet with one of our Bronco P1s. And I kept thinking, when would you clearly define the bet finished? Because if he has an okay to good year next year, he's going to go into his third year. And so I think he's definitely going to get a contract extension, but I'm still not certain that proves I'm wrong.
So what was the bet? Will he be a franchise quarterback?
A clear, defined franchise quarterback.
God, that's...
How do you define that?
I don't know how
when
you define
do you
that.
say... Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I have no problem being wrong.
Well, I think it's easy to tell being wrong in this case. It'll be harder to tell if you're right. Does that make sense? Like, if he goes on to throw 40 touchdowns and 10 picks next year and leads them to a playoffs.
That's
and
another great...
Right, you're like, okay,
year,
this guy looks like a franchise quarterback. But this year, when you look at his number, I think he was 27 touchdowns and 12 picks. 29 and
he had
12.
4 yesterday. Yeah.
That's right, 4. Yeah, he was piling it on. The bummer of the game yesterday, too, was the coolest highlight of the game didn't even count. His down-the-field pitch.
Oh, yeah.
I hate how those are considered forward passes. That's so dumb. I get that where the ball leaves the hand.
Gabriel kind of had that, too, in the Rose Bowl.
He did. It was
because the ball... and
give us something, man. We're getting our asses whooped. Can I get one cool highlight? So he had a great year, but, like, what is... Let's say next year he goes from 29 and 12.
What were Stroud's numbers this year? What if he has a Stroud-like second year?
I'll pull it up.
Where you're not questioning, I think, C.J. Stroud.
What if he's like 28 touchdowns, so they're similar, but maybe a slight regress, and like 13 picks?
But yardage is somewhat similar?
Yardage is similar. Is that a franchise quarterback?
I think they say so in Denver, but
20 touchdowns and 12 picks for Stroud this year.
Now, his offensive line's not going to be as bad as C.J. Stroud's, in my opinion, but as we see with almost every quarterback, there's a year two, okay, tapes out. What are your tendencies? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do?
There's a regression for second-year guys.
And I'm not saying it's going to happen. He very well could prove me. I was kind of curious thinking about watching that game yesterday, again, in the distance, because you could tell they were going to blow him out from the get.
Yeah.
When do you define said franchise, not franchise?
Is C.J. Stroud a franchise quarterback?
Well, I would say yes because I had an opinion I thought he would be, but today...
Would you label him that right now? You got to label him yay or nay, franchise or no franchise.
See, that's still an opinion. It's not a defined thing.
It's still in the gray area.
Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, they paid him.
Lamar Jackson
paid like
is a franchise quarterback.
He's a top 5 quarterback and maybe the MVP of the league.
Jordan Love, I think if you get that $200+ million contract, franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, franchise quarterback.
I mean, come on, how is he not?
Sam Darnold?
I see your point, and this is why I think it's easier to prove. Like, if you end up being wrong in this debate and it's clear-cut numbers-wise, that's easy to acknowledge.
And you think after next year this is
I don't
settled?
think it's going to be after next year. I think you're going to have to go 3 to 4 years and get a sample
size.
size.
I was too, yeah.
And if his numbers hover somewhere in the range of what he did this year, but slightly better, like, cut down on the interceptions a little bit. Maybe the completion percentage ticks up just a hair, although 66 isn't terrible at all. A lot of it's around the line of scrimmage.
No, yardage, 66 is what Lamar was 66.7 this year.
Yardage, you want to tick up a little bit closer to 4,000, right? Like there's little things in which he could improve on. But if his numbers hover around this for the next 3 years, I think then you got a franchise quarterback.
Okay, that's fair.
And I think that's fair.
I think it's 3 to 4 as well.
And I think C.J. Stroud is a prime example of why next year, no matter how the year goes, or based on this year, you can't say yes or no, because C.J. Stroud regressed in almost every statistical category.
I think the area, and I noted this earlier, like what the most impressive part of his game yesterday was. It to me, like, wasn't just that they won, like punching the ticket's important. There was a lot of like, ooh, Chiefs plus 11. They came out and said not today.
That was over
right?
5 minutes in.
That is impressive. 4 touchdowns to finish with 29 and be second all time as a rookie. That is impressive. But it doesn't jump to me. Those are all backups for the Chiefs. The Chiefs did not care about that game. Nope. To me, what was impressive was the moving the ball down the field. This year, yards per attempt, Bo Nix was 29th. You know who he was ahead? Mac Jones, both Vegas quarterbacks, Caleb Bryce, and that was it. And Caleb obviously did not have the rookie year everybody thought he would.
No.
So how do you improve upon that? 6.7 yards. How do you get that to 7, to 7.5, to almost 8? When you push it up there, that's when you start seeing the elite franchise quarterback stuff.
Be the biggest step that he needs to make from year 1 to year 2.
Not that the other stuff doesn't matter. No. That's the standalone. For me, That's the only little thing. And yesterday I was like, okay, he's pushing the ball. I've seen him do it. He doesn't do it consistently enough, and that's something he could definitely do next year.
That's the interesting thing about him is it did last year at Oregon, and it kind of carried over to the NFL, and a lot of the numbers back it up. And then he unleashes throws that you're like, dude, that was a beautiful deep ball.
The
like,
Bengal game,
you can do it. Like it's in there. So why? Is it just a ball protection thing? I don't know why that doesn't. Is it a play calling thing? You don't have enough time thing? Like what is the reasoning why that rocket isn't unleashed more than once in a blue moon? And that was very true yesterday. And again, backups all over the place defensively for Kansas City, but he was shredding them down the field.
Well, I think it's kind of a combo answer there. I think it's from what he turned around for himself at Oregon, from the Auburn. Like I saw this a lot yesterday of like nobody at Auburn. Nobody believed that he could do it at Auburn. Nobody
gave him a chance. Is that what you're telling me? Nobody gave a chance?
There weren't a lot of believers. And
No,
I
there
would
were
just
not.
say, his own fan bases at all his journeys have kind of questioned or wondered aloud, right? Hand up. There you go, after the Georgia game. I think his play style, it's not that you can't be successful. I think how he plays is because everything got turned around with it at Oregon, where it was like, Bo, you don't have to throw in a double.
No.
We got a nice little check down. Hey, 5-6 yards on this play would be massive in the next down.
By the way, you're a dynamic athlete. Go run it. Fall forward for 7 yards.
Certainly. And so you saw his mobility and athleticism shine, I thought, a lot this year in the plays where his offensive line did break down, and it didn't a whole lot. He had okay pass coverage, or pass blocking, excuse me. But I thought he used athleticism at the right spots. I just think he looks at it sometimes and is like, I could throw there. I could also give it to Estime, and he could just
get
go
6 yards.
6 yards.
And now it's 2nd and 4.
2nd and 4.
Yeah,
and so, it's a little bit there. He's a little bit of a yak merchant, a Charlie check down. But I've said this about game managers at quarterback. The label doesn't have to be offensive to people.
No.
What's the final result? And this year, it was that they won and they went to the playoffs. You don't have to get bothered by somebody calling him a check down Charlie. If it means they win the football game while he still pushes it, I'd like him to do it more. And I think as his career goes on with this kind of season, he could get there for sure.
There's one of the most common sayings from offensive coordinators at every level of football everywhere. You can't go broke taking a profit. And little 4 or 5 yard gains count the same, man.
Yeah.
It's not the sexy thing, but on 1st and 10, you're a little under pressure. You got to back out of the backfield. There you go, 2nd and 6. I'd much rather live in that than 2nd and 10 or take a sack and live in 2nd and 16. Your life becomes that much easier.
Right.
Where I was going to go initially, and it's funny that this turned into a Bo segment because he deserves his flowers. He's having a great year, and I'm very happy that they are in the playoffs. There is a part of me, and I'm going to get to a quote from their quarterback as well, that is incredibly pissed off at the Cincinnati Bengals for the way that they started the year. Not because in hindsight they eliminated me from a survivor pool in week 1, losing to the Patriots at home.
I got eliminated twice by them in 3 weeks.
Yeah, they lost to the Commies again in week 3. They started 0-3. They rattled off, 5 in a row to end the season, including a win over the Broncos. They would have had to head-to-head, but they lost those games early, and they're not going to go to the playoffs because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And getting robbed of Joe Burrow in the playoffs sucks. Like, I'd
add Jamar Chase to that.
All of it.
Seating leader Trey Hendrickson.
Like, I'm thrilled that Bo's in the playoffs. I'm just not really giving them much of, and maybe I'm wrong. Check this on next Monday. I'm not giving them much of a chance to go to Buffalo and
but
win
you
that
think
game.
Burrow and the Bengals put up a better
There's
fight?
just something about him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They've beaten Buffalo a
He
couple
has
of
that
times.
mystique.
He's got the Kansas City thing down.
Yes.
Like, there's something about their offense and what he can do and the level that he's playing at that nobody wants to see them in the postseason, and I'm pissed that they got off to such a bad start that we're robbed of seeing that team in the playoffs.
No doubt about it. I totally get it. And I think most of football fan, like if fandom is removed, I think most football fans largely agree with the take. The interesting thing was his post-game interview. I mean, you could tell he's freezing cold and ready to go in the locker room because it looked so cold at Pittsburgh. I find what interesting, obviously an amazing season, and I actually love that he came out and said, I'm not going to the MVP. Like, not good enough. It's going to go to somebody else.
Didn't go to the playoffs.
He had a great year. What I find interesting is how he sits with a label that no other quarterback in the league gets. No other quarterback. Lamar's year this year, even better than his year last year. He's probably not going to win the MVP. Josh Allen, they gave away Stephon Diggs, a bunch of just mash unit misfit guys. Can they do it? He did it. He's going to win the MVP. Herbert's going to go to the playoffs this year. Had a great year 1 under Harbaugh. No other quarterback gets the label that Joe Burrow does because he did something one time. One time. That, by the way, I think if you replay that game, doesn't happen.
If they score at the end of the first half, it probably doesn't happen.
But he beat Patrick Mahomes
in Kansas City
one time, and he's the guy that forever, until he never does it again.
Because nobody can beat the guy.
We'll just go, he should get it because he's the Mahomes conqueror. And it's like, well, he did.
One time, yeah.
Are they ever not going to score again in the second half at home in the playoffs?
I know. They played him the very next year, and Kansas City won the game.
They lost.
Yeah, Kansas City won the game.
And Kansas City won the game. But he still gets that label because he's the one guy in this Mahomes era that's done it.
I think it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on, and then we'll go to a couple of other NFL notes, including a wide receiver who was not happy yesterday, and we got the audio to play. But Burrow, after the game, was asked about T. Higgins, who got banged up on Saturday and didn't finish. Had a remarkable he's been a really good wide receiver, I should say, and he's going to be a free agent. They have not locked him up to a long-term extension. And Burrow was asked after the game, he said, you don't want to make a habit of letting great players get out of the building. You just can't let him get out of the building. I will give you a message, Joe Burrow. He's going to leave the building because you play for a cheap organization and a cheap owner, and you have a massive contract, and they still haven't locked up Jamar Chase, which they have to do this offseason as well. So you're going to have to pick. So T. Higgins will not be a Cincinnati Bengal next year. I would be shocked if that ends up happening. To me, that's one of the biggest things that is kind of overarching his entire career storyline. Can he break through an incompetent organization?
Well, because he takes the deal that he's deserving of with those quarterback contracts, and then if you add the cheap element to it.
He's a cheap owner, man. You got 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers. You haven't locked either of them up yet. One's going to walk in free agency.
And he's not wrong to say you don't want talent like that to leave. Higgins is awesome. We know Chase is stellar.
Chargers on line 1, by the way. Go get that guy.
Do you know what they need? Look, T. Higgins is great. They could very well hurt them a ton to lose that production. Their defense, they fired their coordinator today.
They did.
Their defense was, their only good game was the last game of the year.
They need some linebackers.
Desperately. And Russell Wilson was the only good game at the end of the
terrible.
season. So, just an interesting note. I'm a little bummed that he's not in the playoffs. I do agree with your storyline narrative, though. It is funny how much one game impacts the entire narrative around a player. He was outstanding. I have a couple thoughts on the MVP thing that you mentioned there. Josh Allen likely to win the award. One wide receiver very upset in a random non-football stat. We'll get to those coming up next. First for Swag with SportsCenter.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan with more touchdown passes 4 than incompletions 3. Bo Nix in his rookie season leading the Broncos past the Chiefs 38-0 to clinch the final wild card spot in the AFC. Their reward, a trip to Buffalo to face the second-seeded Bills Sunday. They are 8.5-point underdogs. The other 2 AFC wildcard games set for Saturday. Chargers up first, 3-point favorites on the road at the Texans. And then the Ravens and Steelers will do battle for a third time this season. Baltimore, a 9.5-point favorite at home. The NFC saw the Lions leaving no doubt about who the number 1 seed is with a 31-9 rout of the Vikings. That sends Minnesota to the 5 seed and a trip to L.A. to face the Rams Monday night. Vikings 2.5-point favorites there. The Commanders getting in will head to Tampa, who clinched the NFC South on Sunday. Buccaneers 3.5-point favorites. That game Sunday, as is the Eagles hosting the Packers. Philly 4.5-point favorites. Black Monday, not as ominous as in some previous seasons. Just 2 coaches so far getting turf. Gerard Mayo Sunday night found out he was one and done for the Patriots. And then this morning, the Jaguars moving on from Doug Peterson. Blazers on the road in Detroit. Chauncey Billups facing his former team tonight. That'll be a 4 o'clock tip on KUNP. That's channel 1016 on Comcast. And Portland's a 6.5-point underdog there. More sports scores and stories. 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Your favorite fan show.
This is family business, and this is for the family that can't be with us.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
All right, I got a random non-football stat for you I want to give before we wrap up the show here in the next handful of minutes. One wide receiver who is disgruntled, we'll get to that in a moment. If you had an MVP vote, who would get your vote?
You know, it's Josh Allen is certainly going to win it. I don't think that's close to the odds makers right now. He's an overwhelming favorite, and I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I loved that they got rid of Diggs. That was a controversial move, and I understand the whole no weapons thing. This is gonna piss some people. I think I'd go Lamar.
His season, by the way, he is the first player in NFL history with 40 passing touchdowns and under 5 interceptions in a single season. 41-4 is his ratio.
4,000 passing yards. He had 900 rushing yards. The only thing with that, and why people won't vote for him, is one, he's won it a couple times already. Josh Allen's gonna win it again because of narrative. He also has Derrick Henry, who was the second best pickup for a team this year.
I think that has to go both ways, though, because how many opportunities have been opened up for Derrick Henry because of the threat Lamar Jackson is, right? Like, who has
I think it's a combo.
Right? Who has Derrick Henry's quarterback been over the last 3 years in Tennessee? And every time you play them, it's like, hey, let's put 13 guys in the box and stop the run, and we're going to win the game. Now you don't have the ability to do that. So it's opened things up for both of them in that regard offensively.
Yeah, again, Josh Allen's going to win it, so it's kind of a moot point.
But Lamar would get your vote?
I would
if
give
you
it
were a
to
voter?
Lamar.
Yeah.
And what would that be, his third, right?
His third MVP.
And people would just say, oh, he wins MVPs. He don't win playoff games.
That's exactly what
I'm
they
like,
would
well,
say.
I mean, yeah, but it's a regular season award, and oh my God.
I would have to sit down because just on face value and what were those moments? We talk about Heisman moments and MVP moments in NFL. Josh Allen, I think, has more of them.
The irony of that, if your debate is Lamar and Josh Allen, do you remember what happened when the Bills and the Ravens played this year?
Yep.
The Ravens kicked the S out of them early in the season.
I would, though, I think sneaky, all the nonsense that went on in Philly and Saquon Barkley was the most important offseason pickup.
Running back's not winning that award.
9th guy to ever 2,000, but I also
Burrow's going to finish ahead of Saquon Barkley.
Is that right, though?
No.
No, it's not my opinion that it's right.
How does the MVP ballot work out? Do you do like 1 through 4, like a Heisman thing, or you just vote for one guy?
I think it's 1, 2, 3.
I think it's top whatever.
And then
would Barkley fall in your top 3 if you were a voter?
I'd certainly, yes.
Over Burrow?
Yeah.
Or over Josh Allen?
Well, you have to put him over
because that's
Burrow.
your power 4, right? It's Lamar,
yes.
Burrow, Josh Allen, and Saquon Barkley.
If I'm voting a top 3.
Top 3 MVP voting.
It pains me to not have Burrow in my top 3, but it's the most important position, and they didn't make the playoffs, and that's not his fault, but he's the one that's quarterback. I'm going Lamar, Allen, Barkley.
The biggest argument against Burrow would be, do you know what the record was this year? 9-8. You know what they went last year?
I don't.
9-8. You know who their quarterback was for the majority of the season? Jake Browning.
Well, was it the majority? Because I thought he got
not majority.
10.
That's a little. Yeah, it was in the second half of the year. Jake Browning took them to 9-8, and they went to the playoffs. I think I agree with you. I think Lamar would get my vote.
Really?
I think he would.
I'm stunned.
41-4, and this is. I mean, I hate that this turns into, and this happened in the Heisman, and I brought it up when it did. This doesn't have to turn into an anti-one guy, pro-other guy take.
Oh, that's not
all
my
4
position.
of them are worthy of winning an MVP. All 4 of them in any given year, depending on who else is around them, very easily could have won the award, similar to what we had with Genty and Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Genty did something we've never really seen in a long time from a running back, and Hunter's done something we've never seen before. Like, I wouldn't have an issue either way, so I'm not batting an eye no matter who ends up winning the award. But there is something to the efficiency that Lamar has played at. He's done it on the ground and with his legs. And to have 41-4 is a remarkable ratio.
With 4,100 yards,
yes.
And he leads the league in yards per average at 8.8.
Yeah, more passing yards, and I know Lamar, I think, let me pull up his rushing statistics.
It was over, I think it's 900.
So he had 915 yards and 4 touchdowns. So the biggest difference for Allen will be the rushing touchdown stat. He had 12.
Well, I think he also only had 28 touchdown
But he only had
throws.
28, so it was 45 total touchdowns for Lamar and 40 total touchdowns for Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He had more total touchdowns, fewer interceptions, more rushing yards, more passing yards.
Their QBRs are nearly identical.
QBRs are identical. Beat him in the regular season, by the way. I don't know.
I mean, I don't like that per se.
I'm just saying, if you're looking for one final thing to point to, he does have a head-to-head win over him. And they might play in the playoffs. I'm rooting for either of them. There's no wrong answers here, but I think, look, I was on the Burrow train, but then missing the playoffs. I understand that argument.
So if they make the wild card, are you going Burrow?
I think I would have, yeah. I think I would have.
Yeah.
Dude, and I know that I just gave you the stat of Browning and what he did last year in Cincinnati. If they didn't have Joe Burrow this year, with how bad their defense was, how many games are the Bengals winning?
I don't like that.
Not a lot's the answer.
Well, I certainly would agree with that.
I mean, they went 9-8 with him having a historic season throwing
and then
the
take
football.
Allen off the Bills.
Yeah. You
and
can do that with a lot of guys.
Lamar off. The Ravens are probably like hovering at 9-8 or 8-9.
They're a different version of the
Ravens
Titans that just runs the ball.
Steelers.
Yes, absolutely.
If you know.
But it's an interesting debate this year. We can put a poll question up. Who would get your vote? We'll put those 4 guys in
Who's
there.
not getting enough consideration? Somebody that's not going to finish in the top 3 to 4 that you would say, like Jared Goff gets none of this.
Darnold.
Goff or Darnold's probably the next tier. Very similar numbers.
I'm going to throw one at you right now. This guy threw for 4,500 yards. He had 41 touchdowns.
Yeah, Baker. You going to go Baker on me?
I'm not saying he wins, but again, like he's not going to get any of the noise, and his numbers are insane. Also, 71.4 completion percentage.
That's an incredible number, man. Justin Herbert, how do we not give it to him? Anyways, Tyreek Hill.
That was my preseason takeaway.
That was your MVP bet. Yeah, he had a really good year.
He didn't throw enough.
Yeah, the ratio was there. He needed more. 23-3 is impressive, but you got to be like 35-3 to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Not quite enough tutties. After the game yesterday in Miami, or I should say in New York, they lost the game. Here is what Tyreek Hill had to say about his future in Miami.
This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man, so... I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here or that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like I'm out, bro. You know, so it was great playing here, but you know, at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for for my career and you know what's best because I'm too much of a competitor to be. You know, just. Does that mean? Yeah,
yes. I'm out. I'm out of here. See you guys later. He's got 2 years left on his contract.
He's already talking about it in the past tense. He's still in the locker room.
Yeah, that's a great sign to end your year. By the way, you're such a competitor that you went to Miami to get a bigger paycheck and ran away from a dynasty in the NFL. So.
Yeah,
you could have stayed in Kansas City and taken a cheaper deal to play with Mahomes and Kelsey and won 2 more Super Bowls and had 3 rings, but you wanted the bag and you moved to Miami.
Not the most stellar person off the field, a remarkable player. No. You cannot hit me with disappointment and I'm such a competitor I need to be in the playoffs. You were in the playoffs last year.
You were.
We shouldn't make any human being play in Kansas City what they had to play in last year. He did literally nothing for them.
Literally nothing.
So, yeah. Good luck to wherever you're going to get. Where's he going to go?
So many wide receivers do this, man. Like, you want to get the paycheck, and I totally get it. But, like, Devontae Adams did this in Green Bay. He wanted the check, which is great. Then you get there for 2 years, and you're like, get me the hell out of here. I don't want to be here because your quarterback sucks, and you got no hope. So, I mean, I'd certainly be willing to take a flyer on him if I'm a good team, but can you fold that salary in? He's got.
Well, what team needs him? That's the thing to look at is what team could take on the contract.
Can the Chargers take on that contract? Because I'd take on that contract in a heartbeat if I'm the Chargers. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what their dead cap
I don't
is
either. At the top
with some of the veteran guys.
I'd probably rather.
He's an amazing player.
Yeah.
He's got some stuff off the field that happened this year. And I'm not talking about the arrest. I'm talking about other stuff that people didn't talk about.
Yeah.
I would rather the Chargers make moves to try to get Warren in the draft.
Oh, you want a tight end, Tyler Warren? Go that route.
Yeah.
Okay. They need a weapon. We know that. They need one more. So here's another candidate for you.
I think their younger
Warren
wide receivers
is right up
are
Harbaugh's alley.
Totally up his alley.
Brock Bowers 2.0.
Yes, blocking tight end that can catch the ball like a maniac.
Was Jim Harbaugh turned on watching Brock Bowers play against his own team?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was, without a doubt. Without a doubt, he was. Poll question is up. Who will get your MVP vote? Allen, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, or Joe Burrow? Go vote at Dirt and Sprague on Twitter. And we'll update you on the other poll questions as we wrap up the show. Plus, I'm going to throw I've been teasing this for like a half hour. I just thought it was funny. I'm going to corkscrew in a non-football stat for you today. We'll get to that. We'll wrap up the show on a Monday next on The Fan.
It's time for To The House, the scoring plays that make football special. Brought to you by Smartline Home Design. Online at smartlinehomedesign.com.
So 4th and 2. And the Lions go for it. The Vikings lead. He does this. It's a touchdown to Gibbs.
Talk about making fun of picks. That was Mike Tirico, by the way, on NBC. Remember when everybody said Jahmyr Gibbs, 12th overall pick? What are you doing, Detroit? 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 tutties, tied for first in the NFL. Lions clinched the number 1 seed.
I do remember that. In fact, I remember doing the show after the draft saying, did you see Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell hug each other? I think they know what they got in that guy, and that proved to be pretty good. That's a great game for him. It sucks to lose Montgomery, but man, the way he moves...
Dude, that explosion on that last touchdown run, you're like, oh, they're going to get him. No, you're not.
And by the way, good for the Lions. They played like the number 1 seed all year in the NFC.
They
stumbled a little bit. They deserved that.
To the House, brought to you by Smartline Home Design, a trusted local architectural design studio ready to bring your dream home to life. Visit smartlinehomedesign.com.
Bill.
Inside my bones.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
All right, we'll get to the poll questions. The Blazers are back in action tonight. Our boy Chance was prepping last night in Detroit, walking around on the field.
What I love about Chauncey...
He got a shout-out from Mike Tirico. Hey, you know, this guy made big shots in his career.
Yeah, big game Billups.
Big shots Billups.
Billups. I love when people chime in about Chauncey Billups being a head coach because you can tell that they don't pay attention or actually watch. They just know he's the coach and they move on. I've heard 2 different random times about how good it is for all these young players. I think it was Greg Oden, actually, when he was here, and he's like,
yes,
I think it's great for these young guys to have a Hall of Fame coach like Chauncey. And I'm like,
he's not a Hall of Fame coach. He was a Hall of Fame player.
Greg,
It's a big deal.
Glad you're good. Glad you came back to visit. Please stick around for 3 weeks. Watch what happens. Get back to me.
Yeah. Watch a couple of games and then report back on the old X's and O's. Well, fun watching Shaden Sharp stand in the corner late in that game in Milwaukee on Saturday night, but I digress. Random non-football stat for you.
This one should be fun, though. Anthony Simons versus Cade Cunningham.
Hey, there you go. Future's bright.
Don't worry about Scoop.
There is one team in Major League Baseball to this point in the offseason that has not spent a penny. Not a dime. Not a dollar. Not $5.
I know who this is, surprisingly.
Zilch, Zippo, nothing.
I know who this is.
Can you guess, Jason Swigard?
I know who it is.
Is it your Seattle Mariners?
No.
It is not my Seattle Mariners. Similar to the Mariners, though. It's a pretty obvious one when you think about it.
A worse franchise that somehow has more success.
There's no way they're a worse franchise. No way.
Excuse me?
Get you 2 of these. No way.
I said a worse franchise with more success.
No way. They're not worse. They can't be.
You're Gigantes?
They can't be. No, the Giants have actually signed a couple of guys, but they still suck. It is the Miami Marlins. They haven't spent a single dollar. There's no way they're a worse franchise than the Mariners. Poll question, who is the worst franchise, Marlins or Mariners? 2 World Series. The Mariners are the only team in baseball who's never been to one.
I'm well aware of who's won and who hasn't won. I just said
I don't think you are.
One who's worse somehow with more success.
Would get your MVP vote.
What team do you trust more?
The Marlins. 36% of you say Lamar Jackson would get your MVP vote early on.
Yeah, that's going to change.
Most baffling decision so far, 48% of you say the Giants keeping their GM and their coach. And
I think it's the Colts.
Besides the Blazers, did you watch any NBA games this weekend? 88% of you said no. So we'll see if that changes today. You got some games on NBA TV. There's a void of football tonight. Nothing going on?
No, the FCS championship game.
Who do we got?
North Dakota State, Montana State.
Let's go. Is it at Montana State or at North Dakota State?
I think it's a neutral site.
Okay.
Suns are at Sixers. They just benched Nurkic and Bradley Beal because they've lost 4 games in a row, God forbid. So
made changes to their starting lineup. You can do that? You can do that.
There's something on.
You got that, Blazers and Pistons. That'll do it for us, folks. If you're missing the show, go check the podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Durden Sprague and at 1080thefan. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Colin is next. You're listening to 1080 The Fan.